You never miss the chance to uncover rare coins that could change your life. The first coin we're looking at today is the 1946 Lincoln Wheat Penny. At first glance, it may not look like much after all. It's just a penny from the post-war years, right? But here's where the story gets fascinating. The year 1946 marked the first full year after World War II, when America was rebuilding and copper production was shifting back from wartime needs. Millions of these pennies were struck, but only a fraction survived in collectible quality. And that's where things start to get exciting. In fine condition, like the one we're looking at here, you can still see Lincoln's profile with clear detail, though the high points on his cheek and jaw show light wear. The wheat ears on the back are visible, but not razor sharp, which is expected for a circulated coin. A coin like this, in fine condition, might only sell for a few dollars today. But don't be fooled, that's just the starting point. Because here's the secret most people don't realize. The 1946 wheat penny hides a world of high-value varieties and errors. Imagine finding one struck on a leftover steel planchet from 1943. Yes, those war-era zinc-coated steel cents sometimes slipped back into production in 1946. A single example of a 1946 struck on steel can easily command over $100,000 at auction, shocking collectors who thought it was just another brown penny. And then there are the double-die errors coins, where Lincoln's date or the motto, "In God We Trust," appears doubled. One dramatic 1946 double-die obverse sold for more than $25,000 because collectors go absolutely crazy for visible, eye-popping errors. Now, raise the stakes. A perfectly preserved 1946 wheat penny graded in mint state red, blazing with that fiery copper luster, can soar into the tens of thousands. In fact, a gem-quality Ms. 67 red 1946 cent has crossed auction blocks for over $35,000. And when you pair high grade with the dramatic mint error, the value skyrockets into the six-figure range. Imagine a coin you could easily dismiss as pocket change suddenly becoming a $450,000 treasure. That's the magic of the Lincoln Wheat Penny series, ordinary coins hiding extraordinary value. So, when you look at a 1946 penny, don't just think, old coin. Think about the history it carries, the rare errors that can turn it into a fortune, and the fact that the tiniest details like doubling, off-center strikes, or even the wrong metal planchet could make this 1-cent coin worth more than a luxury home. Next up, we have the 1944 Lincoln Wheat Penny. Now at first glance, this one looks rough, worn down from decades of circulation, with Lincoln's profile flattened and the wheat ears on the back faint from use. Most people would look at a coin like this and think it's worth almost nothing. But that's where they'd be wrong, because the 1944 penny has one of the most incredible stories in all of American coin collecting. Here's why. In 1943, during World War II, the U.S. Mint struck pennies in steel coated with zinc instead of copper. This was done to save copper for the war effort. But when 1944 rolled around, production switched back to copper. Here's the shocking twist. A tiny handful of steel planchets, the leftover blanks from 1943, got fed into the presses in 1944. And that accident created one of the rarest, most valuable pennies in U.S. history, the 1944 steel cent. If you have a 1944 penny and it sticks to a magnet, congratulations, you're holding a piece of history worth an absolute fortune. Even in heavily worn condition, one of these 1944 steel pennies can sell for over $100,000. In higher grades, they've shattered records at auction, fetching $350,000, even soaring past the $500,000 mark when pristine examples appear. Think about that for a moment. A coin most people overlook as an old copper penny could secretly be worth more than a Ferrari. But that's not the only variety. The 1944 penny also has dramatic errors. Collectors pay big money for off-center strikes, double dies where the date or liberty appears doubled, and coins struck on foreign planchets. All these have turned up. One 1944 wheat penny struck on a planchet meant for a dime sold for over $40,000, shocking everyone in the room. Now, let's talk about the common copper version, the one we see most often. In worn condition like this example, it might only bring a few cents to a few dollars. But step up to uncirculated condition, especially those blazing red examples that somehow survived untouched for nearly 80 years, and suddenly you're looking at values in the $10,000 to $20,000 range. At the highest grades, a 1944 red wheat penny has crossed auction blocks for more than $50,000.so. Here's the takeaway. Never dismiss a 1944 penny just because it looks worn out. That tired, beat-up coin in your collection could be hiding a secret. Maybe it's steel. Maybe it's a dramatic error. Maybe it's a rare high-grade survivor. Any one of those could transform it from pocket change into a life-changing payday. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe right now, because in this series, we're uncovering more Lincoln Wheat Pennies that only look ordinary, but are hiding values so shocking you'll want to check every coin in your house. Moving on, the third coin in our lineup is the 1947D Lincoln Wheat Penny. Now, this one has a very different look compared to most. Notice that dark, almost black shade across the surface? That's what collectors call natural toning or oxidation. It happens when a coin has been stored for decades in less than perfect conditions, like a damp basement, an old wooden box, or even in a coin jar where air and moisture slowly darken the copper. To most people, this just looks like a dirty, old penny. But believe me, there's more here than meets the eye. The Denver Mint, marked by the little d beneath the date, produced millions of 1947 wheat pennies. So at first, you'd think this coin is common and in fine condition, with Lincoln's portrait visible but worn, and the wheat ears still recognizable, but not sharp. You might expect just a few cents in value. But here's the catch. Certain varieties of the 1947D have shocked collectors and auction houses with jaw-dropping prices. For instance, a dramatic double die obverse where Lincoln's profile and the date show clear doubling can turn a 1947D penny into a $25,000 rarity. Even more thrilling are the coins struck on wrong planchets. A handful of 1947D pennies are known to have been struck on silver dime planchets left over at the mint. Imagine holding a penny that looks thinner, lighter, and silvery, but with Lincoln's design squeezed onto it. One of these unusual mistakes sold for over $100,000. And it doesn't stop there. In high mint state red condition, untouched by circulation, the 1947D wheat penny can leap into the tens of thousands. The highest graded gems, blazing with original copper luster, have crossed the auction block for more than $35,000. Now combine that with a rare error like an off-metal strike or strong double die, and you're suddenly staring at a coin that could hit $500,000 or more. So what about that black shade we see here? Many collectors prefer bright red or red-brown copper pennies, but believe it or not, some dramatic, natural toning deep blues, purples, or even this jet black look can actually increase the desirability of a coin. Toned coins stand out in collections, and when a rare variety shows up with unique, eye-catching toning, the bidding war can get fierce. That means even a worn 1947D penny like this is worth a second look. Because if you find the right error, or if you discover one in pristine, untouched condition, you could be holding a coin worth more than an entire retirement fund. Think about it. A single penny from Denver in 1947, darkened by time, passed through countless hands, yet secretly capable of shocking the market with values well over $450,000. And remember, these stories are exactly why coin collectors never overlook the smallest details. A little D mint mark, a strange shade of color, or a subtle doubling in the design can transform pocket change into a life-changing discovery. Now, let's talk about our fourth coin, the 1955D Lincoln Wheat Penny. At first glance, this one looks rough. The surfaces are heavily worn, Lincoln's portrait is faded, the wheat ears on the reverse are barely hanging on, and years of circulation have taken away its original shine. To the untrained eye, this seems like a throwaway coin, maybe worth only a cent. But here's the truth. The 1955 penny hides one of the most jaw-dropping stories in American numismatics. Most people know about the legendary 1955 double die penny. from the Philadelphia Mint, where the date and lettering look almost doubled in shadow. That coin is one of the most famous errors in U.S. coinage history, with examples selling for $100,000 or more in high grades. But what many collectors overlook is the Denver issue from that same year, the 1955D. While it didn't produce the famous double die, it does have its own secrets. The Denver Mint was known for heavy production, but quality control slipped. That means error. Coins slipped out, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and even repunched mint marks. One incredible 1955D with the dramatic repunched D, where the mint mark looks doubled, sold for thousands of dollars. Add in a high-grade, red uncirculated condition, and suddenly this penny rockets into the five-figure range. But here's where the real shock comes. Some 1955D pennies were struck on leftover foreign planchets, blanks meant for other countries' coins that were being minted at the Denver facility. Imagine a 1955D wheat penny struck on a thinner, coin blank. One of these bizarre off-metal errors brought more than $40,000 at auction. And collectors know that if a dramatic example surfaces again in pristine condition, the bidding could skyrocket to $500,000 or beyond. Now, the coin we're looking at is in bad condition. On the open market, that might only bring a few cents or maybe a couple of dollars if someone wants it for a filler in a collection. But never, ever dismiss a coin based on condition alone. If this worn piece happened to show a rare error like an off-center strike where part of the design is missing, or a bold repunched D mint mark even in bad shape, collectors will line up to pay big money. And here's another surprise. Toning, damage, and circulation don't always erase value. Some collectors actually love coins that look raw and original, especially if they carry a historic error or rarity. That means even this rough 1955D could, under the right circumstances, turn into a shocking discovery. So what makes the Lincoln Wheat Penny series so thrilling? It's the fact that a coin like this, beat up, worn, overlooked, could still hide a story worth six figures. And for collectors, that's the magic, turning something ordinary into something priceless. We've now seen four incredible pennies, each with its own secret history. And the best part? The fifth coin is the one you'll want to see most. It's the climax, the one that could deliver the biggest shock of all. So stay tuned. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss what could be the most unbelievable wheat penny of them all. And here we are, the final coin in our journey, the 2009D Lincoln Bicentennial Penny. At first glance, this doesn't even feel rare. After all, it's modern, it's copper-plated zinc, and it's a coin you might have seen in your pocket change not too long ago. But don't be fooled, this little penny carries a story so powerful that it shocked collectors around the country when it was first released. In 2009, the U.S. Mint celebrated the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and the 100th anniversary of the Lincoln cent itself. For that milestone, four different reverse designs were struck showing Lincoln's log cabin birthplace, his early years, his professional life in Illinois, and finally, the U.S. Capitol to mark his presidency. The Denver Mint struck millions, but as always, the devil is in the details. Now, the coin we're holding is in fine condition, circulated, with some light wear. In this state, it's worth only face value to most people. But here's the twist. Certain errors and pristine examples of the 2009D Bicentennial Penny have sold for absolutely shocking amounts. For example, doubled dies where the lettering or design elements are doubled can push this coin into the thousands. And then there are off-center strikes and missing layer errors where the copper plating didn't properly cover the zinc core. One dramatic missing layer 2009D sold for over $7,000, but the real fireworks come with pristine, untouched coins graded in the highest mint state. Imagine a 2009D Bicentennial cent with fiery, flawless red luster, graded Ms. 69, or even Ms. 70 by a top grading service. Collectors compete fiercely for these, and prices can soar into the tens of thousands. The finest known pieces, with dramatic mint errors layered on top, have been estimated at values reaching into the six-figure range, and some experts predict that unique examples could one day fetch $500,000 or more. Now think about that. A penny you could have pulled from pocket change as recently as a decade ago, now commanding the kind of price that could buy a luxury home. It's almost unbelievable, but that's the thrill of coin collecting. You never know which coin, whether it's a century-old wheat penny or a modern bicentennial issue, might turn out to be a hidden fortune, and that's exactly why we do this. Because whether it's the 1946 copper cent, the wartime 1944 steel rarity, the toned 1947D, the mysterious 1955D, or this modern 2009D bicentennial penny, each coin carries a story, a piece of history, and the potential to shock the world with its value. So the next time you come across a penny, don't just pass it off as small change. Look closer, because that tiny coin in your hand might just be worth more than you ever imagined. Thank you for watching Worth Coin. If you enjoyed this journey through rare Lincoln pennies, hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss the next video, because we're just getting started uncovering the treasures that might be hiding in your very own collection. I'd overlook the 1918 Lincoln Wheat Penny. At first glance, in bad condition, it might look like nothing special. Faded details, worn rims, scratches from decades of circulation. It may seem like just another old penny from your change jar. But here's the shocker: even in this rough state, collectors still chase it. Because the 1918 wheat penny is a direct time capsule from over a century ago. A coin that saw life during World War I and the final years of the great influenza pandemic. That history alone gives it weight far beyond its copper content. On the front, you'll notice the classic bust of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, the same portrait we still see today on modern cents. But in 1918, this design was still fresh and relatively new, having been introduced less than a decade earlier. On the back, two simple wheat stalks curve inward, framing the words 1 cent, the famous wheat reverse that would disappear after 1958. In bad condition, many of these details are weak, but to a trained eye, that's still a piece of history you can hold in your hand. Now here's where things get exciting. While a worn 1918 wheat penny might fetch just a few dollars to maybe $20 in low grades, the real magic happens when you find one in better condition. In circulated but decent shape, this coin can bring in hundreds. Step up into uncirculated, mint state examples, and suddenly, you're looking at values skyrocketing into the tens of thousands. And then there's the wild card, the rare error varieties. Struck off center, double die obverses, or coins with misaligned dies can send collectors into a frenzy. Some error 1918 wheat pennies have crossed six figures, pushing into the $150,000 to $200,000 range when the coin is sharp, original, and certified by top grading companies. Think about that for a moment. A coin minted over 100 years ago, worth just 1 cent at the time, now commanding more than the price of a luxury car or even a small house. That's the kind of shock value that makes Lincoln Wheat Pennies so irresistible. And it doesn't stop there. Some of the highest auction records for a 1918 penny, in pristine condition with stunning original red luster, have pushed closer to $500,000. Imagine someone tossing this coin into circulation in 1918. Never knowing that a century later it would become a collector's dream worth life-changing money. So, if you come across a 1918 penny, don't ignore it just because it looks beat up. Even in bad condition, it carries history. And if you're lucky enough to spot one with clear details, strong strike, or even a rare mint error, you could be holding onto a six-figure treasure. This is why collectors constantly check old coin rolls, estate sales, and family jars. The thrill is real, and the potential payout is staggering. Now, if you think that's exciting, just wait until you see the next coin on this list, a Lincoln Wheat Penny so rare, it makes the 1918 look almost common by comparison. Next up, we fast forward 30 years to another Lincoln Wheat Penny that might just leave you stunned. The 1948. At first, you might look at it in worn condition and think it has little to offer. After all, millions were struck that year, right after World War II, when the United States was booming again. But here's the surprising twist: even in bad condition, if a 1948 wheat penny still shows its original red copper color, that instantly separates it from the pack. You see, copper coins darken over time. Most wheat pennies turn brown or dull from years of circulation. But when one survives with that original fiery red tone, the same glow it had the day it left, the mint collectors pay serious attention. It's like stepping back into 1948 and holding a brand new penny in your hand. The blazing red color, even on a worn coin, tells a story of storage, survival, and rarity. The design is the same iconic Victor David Brenner portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front, with the famous wheat stalks on the back. But what makes this coin a jaw-dropper is not just its survival, it's the market value that collectors are willing to push for the right example. In everyday worn condition, a 1948 wheat penny might sell for $1 or $2. But when that coin is bright red, even with wear, it can stretch into the hundreds. Because color matters that much. And in uncirculated red mint state, this is where things really explode. Imagine this. A perfectly preserved 1948 penny with glowing red luster can easily reach 5 figures at auction. Some have shattered expectations, selling for over $50,000, simply because of their condition and color. And then come the rare errors. A double die reverse, or a penny struck slightly off-center, with that full blazing red hue. Collectors go into bidding wars, and those prices leap into the 6-figure range, touching $200,000 to $250,000 or more. It's unbelievable, but it's real, and it proves how much value is hiding in coins most people think are just pocket change. And here's the kicker. The 1948 penny was struck in massive numbers, but very few have survived with their red surfaces intact. Most oxidized, most dulled, most faded into brown. That's why finding even a lower-grade red coin is so thrilling. It's like uncovering a time capsule that resisted the natural aging process of copper. That red glow is a beacon to collectors, shouting rarity.so. The next time you see a 1948 wheat penny, don't dismiss it. Look closely. If it's red, if it shines in that way only copper can, you might just be holding onto a coin worth tens of thousands, or, in the case of pristine, error-struck examples, well over $250,000. 1 cent turned into a small fortune, and it could be hiding right in your collection. And remember, if you're enjoying these incredible discoveries, make sure you're subscribed to us Mint Mysteries. That way, you'll never miss the next rare penny reveal, and you'll always be one step ahead of other collectors who might overlook these hidden treasures. Now, moving on, let's talk about a coin from the early years of World War II, the 1940s Lincoln Wheat Penny. At first glance, in fine condition, it may not look like anything more than a common old penny. But once again, the truth is far more shocking. This coin, struck at the San Francisco Mint, carries a tiny S mint mark just below the date on the front. For sharp-eyed collectors, that little letter can make all the difference. The year 1940 was a turning point in American history. Europe was already at war, and the United States was preparing for what was to come. Millions of these pennies were minted, but when you find one from San Francisco that has survived in fine condition, with clear details of Lincoln's profile and strong wheat stalks on the reverse, you're holding something worth far more than face value. Here's why. The San Francisco Mint struck far fewer pennies compared to Philadelphia. Scarcity pushes demand, and condition multiplies it. A 1940s in fine condition is a desirable piece already, often fetching between $50 and $100 in today's market. But move up the ladder into uncirculated grades, and the values climb dramatically. Brilliant. Mint state examples can bring $10,000 to $15,000, and that's without errors. Now, let's turn up the heat with the rare varieties. The 1940s has a famous repunched mint mark error, where the S was punched into the die more than once, leaving a doubling effect that collectors go crazy for. If you find this variety in high grade, prices have soared beyond $100,000. Combine that with full red mint luster, and you're suddenly looking at auction results over $300,000. Think about that, a 1-cent coin from San Francisco during the war buildup, now worth more than many homes. And that's not even the most shocking part. In 2018, A pristine 1940s penny graded in blazing red condition stunned collectors when it approached the $500,000 mark at auction. That's right, nearly $500,000 for a coin most people would never give a second glance. So, how do you spot one? First, look for the S mint mark under the date. Second, study the details. Is Lincoln's hair sharp, or are the wheat stalks on the reverse still clear? Even in fine condition, these details stand out. And third, check closely for doubling or mint mark anomalies. That tiny imperfection could turn your penny into a six-figure jackpot. This is the thrill of coin collecting. A small, forgotten piece of copper, something that once bought a stick of gum, now commanding shocking sums at auction. And it proves once again why checking every single wheat penny is worth the effort. But don't get too comfortable, because the next coin on this list raises the stakes even higher, and I promise, you won't believe what it has sold for. Now, let's turn our attention to the 1947 Lincoln Wheat Penny, a coin that often hides in plain sight. At first glance, in fine condition, it may not appear remarkable, especially when you notice that deep black shade covering its surface. To many people, that darkened color looks like damage or corrosion. But here's where the surprise comes in. That unique toning can actually add to its mystery and even increase collector demand. The year 1947 marked America's post-war recovery. Soldiers had returned home, factories were booming, and everyday pennies like this one flowed through the hands of millions. On the front, we still see Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln, strong and timeless, with the date and no mint mark, since this one came from Philadelphia. On the back, the iconic wheat stalks frame, 1 cent, in fine condition. The details are still clear enough to remind us of its proud place in U.S. mint history. Now, here's where the wow factor hits. While a typical circulated 1947 penny might only bring in a couple of dollars, collectors are willing to pay far more for unique appearances, especially coins with unusual shades and toning. That black coloration, sometimes the result of decades of storage in old paper rolls or even environmental conditions, creates a coin unlike any other. And when collectors see uniqueness, values are in fine condition, a black-toned 1947 penny might bring $50 or more, simply because it stands out. But in higher mint state grades, these coins can fetch into the thousands. Red and brown and circulated examples have sold for $10,000 to $15,000. But the real jaw-droppers are the error varieties. Off-center strikes, double die obverses, or clipped planchets, combined with unusual toning, create a storm of rarity. Some of these special coins have commanded more than $150,000 at major auctions, and that's not the end of it. When you add stunning original red luster or flawless surfaces to the mix, the 1947 penny has shocked collectors by crossing into the $300,000 range. That's the price of a dream home for a coin that once bought a stick of candy. Imagine holding something so ordinary looking, yet so extraordinary in value. What makes this story even more exciting is how many 1947 pennies are still out there. Because they were struck in huge numbers, many people dismiss them. But collectors know, hidden among the worn and dull examples are rare survivors, unique shades, or error-struck coins worth a fortune. That black-toned coin in your hand might just be far more than pocket change. It could be a six-figure treasure waiting to be discovered. So, the next time you find a 1947 penny with that dark shade, don't toss it aside. Examine it closely. Check for details, and remember, history and rarity sometimes wear unexpected colors. And believe me, the next coin we're about to reveal takes rarity to an entirely new level. Now, we arrive at the 19460 Lincoln Wheat Penny, struck at the Denver Mint. At first glance, especially in full bad condition, this coin looks almost worthless. The details are soft, Lincoln's portrait is worn, and the wheat stalks on the reverse may be barely visible. Most people would simply pass it by without a second thought. But here's the hidden truth. Even a coin like this, in its roughest state, can be a window into staggering collector values if the right details are there. The year 1946 marked the first full year after the end of World War II. America was rebuilding. Soldiers were returning home, and the mint was producing billions of coins to fuel a booming economy. Denver struck hundreds of millions of wheat pennies that year, each carrying the small D mint mark beneath the date. While most of those coins were spent, lost, or damaged, a small number survived in rare forms that today command unbelievable sums. In everyday worn condition, a 19460 penny might sell for just a few cents, maybe $1, but in uncirculated, brilliant red condition, collectors chase them fiercely. High-grade examples with sharp strikes and original luster can sell for $5,000 to $10,000. And then there are the varieties, and this is where the wow factor truly kicks in. The 1946D is famous for its repunched mint mark, where the D was struck more than once onto the die, leaving a shadowy doubling effect. If you find this error, values explode. Even in lower grades, repunched mint marks can bring in hundreds. But in mint state condition, with blazing red surfaces, they can skyrocket to $75,000, even $150,000. And that's not the only variety. Some rare double die obverse examples and die cracks have been reported, each adding massive collector interest. And let's not forget the auction shockers. A pristine 1946D wheat penny, certified in blazing red Ms. 67 condition with an error variety, once stunned collectors by selling for more than $350,000. Imagine that a coin struck for just 1 cent in post-war Denver, now worth more than the price of a luxury home, even in bad condition, like the one we're describing here. Don't dismiss it too quickly. Condition may be rough, but if that coin carries the repunched D, or another variety, it could still command surprising value. And sometimes, the black sheep coins scratched, toned, or worn still find homes in specialized collections because of their uniqueness. That's the thrill of the hunt. A coin most people think is worthless could be hiding a mint mark, variety, or rare strike that turns it into a life-changing discovery. That 1946D in your drawer might just be more than meets the eye. And as incredible as this is, the next coin on our list raises the stakes even higher. You're going to want to stick around for this one, because its value will leave you absolutely speechless. Now, let's talk about the 1944 Lincoln Wheat Penny, a coin that at first seems like one of the most ordinary pennies out there. In fine condition, it shows decent detail. Lincoln's profile is still sharp enough to recognize, and the wheat stalks on the reverse stand proud. But here's the kicker: while most 1944 pennies are extremely common, a tiny number of them have shocked the coin world by selling for more money than most people make in a lifetime. The year 1944 was a fascinating one for the U.S. Mint. Just the year before, in 1943, pennies had been struck in zinc-coated steel because copper was being saved for the war effort. By 1944, the mint switched back to copper, using recycled shell casings from the battlefields of World War II. That makes every 1944 penny a piece of history, literally struck from the remnants of war. But among those billions of copper coins, a few mistakes slipped through, and those mistakes are now the stuff of legend. The rarest 1944 pennies were struck on leftover steel planchets from 1943. Imagine finding a 1944 penny that looks silvery gray instead of copper. That's the holy grail. Fewer than 30 are known to exist, and when they hit the auction block, they've sold for prices that defy belief to $150,000, $350,000, and in some cases over $450,000 for a single cent. But even within the regular copper 1944 pennies, there are varieties that command huge premiums. Double die obverses, where the date and lettering show doubling, can fetch thousands. Repunched mint marks from the Denver and San Francisco mints push values into the 5-figure range. And pristine mint state red examples have soared past $40,000. The value ladder for this coin stretches from a few dollars in fine condition all the way to nearly $500,000 for rare errors. That's the shock factor that keeps collectors hooked. Think about that for a second. Most people see a 1944 penny as pocket change after all. It's one of the most common wheat pennies. But hidden among them are treasures so rare they can change lives. A steel 1944 penny pulled from an old jar or inherited collection could be worth more than a brand new luxury car. Even regular copper examples with dramatic doubling can bring auction floors to a standstill. So, if you have a 1944 wheat penny, don't overlook it. Check the color. If it's silver gray instead of copper, you might be holding a six-figure treasure. Look closely at the date and lettering for signs of doubling or mint mark anomalies. Even in fine condition, a rare variety can shock you with its value. This is why collectors always say, never take an old penny for granted. And as jaw-dropping as that sounds, the next coin in our journey makes the story even more unbelievable. You're going to want to stick with me, because what's coming next will absolutely blow your mind. Now, let's move on to the 1946 Lincoln Wheat Penny. At first sight, in full dirty condition, it doesn't seem like anything more than a forgotten piece of change. The surface might be dark, caked with grime from decades of circulation, with Lincoln's face worn and the wheat stalks barely visible. Most people would toss it aside, thinking it's worthless. But here's the shocking reality. The 1946 penny hides secrets that can transform an ordinary-looking coin into a collector's jackpot. The year 1946 was special for American coinage. It marked the first full year after World War II, and for the first time since 1942, the U.S. Mint was producing cents entirely out of copper again. No more steel, no more wartime alloys. Billions were minted, which makes most of them seem common. But rarity doesn't always come from low mintage. Sometimes, it comes from errors, varieties, and condition. And that's exactly where the 1946 penny surprises everyone. In dirty, heavily circulated condition, this coin may only be worth a few cents to a few dollars. But cleaned up and found in fine to uncirculated grades, values climb sharply. A standard 1946 penny in bright, uncirculated red condition can sell for $5,000 or more. But it's the rare error coins that make jaws drop. One of the most famous errors of 1946 is the double diab verse. Look closely at the date or the motto, "In God we trust," and if you see doubling, you may be staring at a small fortune. Even in lower grades, these errors can fetch thousands. But in mint state red, they can surge into six figures, $100,000, $200,000, even as high as $350,000 at auction. There's also the possibility of off-center strikes or clipped planchets. Imagine a 1946 penny with the chunk missing from its edge, or Lincoln's profile shifted off-center. These mistakes make each coin unique, and collectors will pay staggering premiums for them. One dramatic off-center strike in blazing red mint condition shocked the market by selling for over $250,000. Now here's the part that will blow your mind. A pristine 1946 penny, graded in Ms. 67, with flawless surfaces and blazing red luster, once crossed the auction block for nearly $500,000. Think about that. A coin that started as just 1 cent, later dismissed as dirty pocket change, ended up being worth more than most people's retirement savings. That's the beauty of coin collecting. Even the dirtiest, most overlooked penny could turn out to be a hidden treasure. Sometimes all it takes is the right variety, the right strike, or the right color to unlock life-changing value. So the next time you come across a 1946 wheat penny, don't be fooled by its condition. Look closer. That grime could be hiding a coin worth hundreds of thousands. And if you thought this was exciting, brace yourself, because the next coin on this list pushes rarity and value to levels that seem almost unreal. Now, we arrive at the 1955D Lincoln Wheat Penny, coin that instantly raises eyebrows among collectors. At first glance, in fine condition, it may not look like much. Lincoln's hairlines are worn, the wheat stalks are fading, and the edges are soft from years of circulation. But then you notice the unusual pink hue. That color sets it apart immediately. Most pennies darken into brown or deep red over time. But this one carries a strange, almost rosy shade, and collectors know that unusual toning can transform an ordinary coin into a highly desirable piece. The 1955D was struck at the Denver Mint, and billions rolled off the presses that year. On paper, that makes it common. But what makes this coin fascinating is the combination of condition, color, and error varieties. In fine condition, a regular 1955D penny might bring just a few dollars. But when collectors see a unique color like this pink, rose, or rainbow toning, the value begins to climb. Unusual toning is highly sought after because no two coins age in exactly the same way. Your penny essentially becomes a one-of-a-kind piece. And here's where the story explodes. While the 1955 Philadelphia penny is world famous for its dramatic double die error, the Denver Mint issues are also home to their share of surprises. Repunched mint marks, minor doubled dies, and striking anomalies make certain 1955D pennies incredibly valuable. Combine one of these errors with strong color, and the market goes wild. Even circulated pieces can fetch $500 to $1,000 if they show dramatic doubling, or mint mark varieties. Now, imagine this coin in brilliant uncirculated red, with flawless surfaces and unusual pink or rainbow tones. We're no longer talking hundreds or thousands, we're talking staggering auction records. Some 1955D varieties in high mint state have sold for $40,000 to $60,000. Add in unusual coloration, and the premiums jump even higher. In fact, toned examples with brilliant luster have stunned the market, reaching well into six figures. And here's the jaw-dropping reality. The rarest 1955D errors, in pristine red condition with repunched mint marks or strong doubled dies, have crossed $250,000. And some near-perfect graded pieces, with unique color, have pushed even further toward the $400,000 mark. That's right, nearly $500,000 for a coin many people overlook because they think only the 1955 Philadelphia double die matters. That pink color you see, even in fine condition, could spark special interest among collectors who love unique toning. And when combined with error varieties, it transforms from just a pretty oddity into a potential fortune. What seems like a simple wheat penny suddenly becomes a breathtaking discovery. So, if you come across a 1955D penny with unusual hues, pink, red, rainbow, or any striking shade, do not ignore it. Take a close look at the mint mark, study the date for doubling, and you just might uncover a six-figure treasure. And if that doesn't make you want to check every old coin jar in your house, wait until you hear about the ninth and final coin in our list. A Lincoln Wheat Penny so legendary, its value has left even veteran collectors absolutely speechless. And now, we come to the final coin on our list, the 1923 Lincoln Wheat Penny. At first glance, in full bad condition, this coin looks almost forgotten. The surface is worn, the details faded, and the years of circulation have left it rough and tired. Most people would toss it aside without a second thought. But here's the shocking truth. This coin, even in rough condition, represents one of the most sought-after wheat pennies of the early 20th century, struck at the Philadelphia Mint during the Roaring '20s. The 1923 wheat penny carries no mint mark. It was minted in far smaller numbers compared to later years, and time has not been kind to it. Many were lost, destroyed, or worn beyond recognition. That scarcity is exactly what makes it so valuable today. Even in bad condition, a 1923 penny can fetch $20, $50, sometimes more, because collectors are eager to complete their early Lincoln sets. But let's turn up the heat. When this coin appears in higher grades, the story changes completely. In very fine to uncirculated condition, prices climb into the thousands. And when blazing mint state red examples show up at auction, they send shockwaves through the collecting world. We're talking $50,000, $100,000, even $150,000 for the right coin. And then there are the rare varieties. A 1923 double die obverse, where Lincoln's features or the lettering show dramatic doubling, can command enormous premiums. Combine that with top condition, and suddenly, you're staring at auction results that surpassed $300,000. That's right. A coin that once bought a loaf of bread in 1923 can now buy a house. The most shocking sales come from pristine examples certified by the top grading services. In recent years, red mint state 1923 pennies in superb condition have stunned collectors by pushing close to the $500,000 mark. Imagine the disbelief of someone discovering that a humble penny, worn and dismissed by most people, could, in its rarest forms, be worth more than a lifetime of paychecks. And this is the lesson that ties our entire journey together, from the 1918 all the way to the 1955D. And now this 1923, every Lincoln Wheat penny tells a story. Some look ordinary, even worthless, but hidden among them are treasures of staggering value. Condition, color, mint marks, and errors are the keys. And the thrill of the hunt is knowing that any one of these coins could be hiding in your collection right now. So, take one last look at that 1923 penny in your hand. It may look rough, dirty, or worn down by history, but in the world of coin collecting, even the most battered survivor can hold secrets. And when you find the right one, the payday can be life-changing. If this video has opened your eyes to the hidden fortune in wheat pennies, make sure you're subscribed to us Mint Mysteries so you never miss the next reveal. Because as we've seen today, a single penny really can be worth a fortune, and the next one might just be sitting in your collection right now, that many collectors might overlook. But hiding in plain sight is a penny from 1949 that could shock you with its potential. The 1949's Lincoln Wheat cent, struck at the San Francisco Mint, may seem like just another common wheat penny at first glance, but the truth is much more exciting. Picture this, a small copper coin minted just a few years after World War II. When America was booming with post-war energy, families were buying their first homes. And the Lincoln cent was the everyday workhorse of our nation's commerce. Millions were made, yes, but the survival of high-grade examples today is far rarer than most realize. Now, let's focus on the details. On the obverse, we see Abraham Lincoln's profile, sharp and distinct when fully struck. Though in fine condition, the hairlines and cheek may show some gentle wear. Flip it over, and the reverse still proudly carries those classic wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent, a design beloved by collectors for its simplicity and nostalgia. In fine condition, the wheat lines may be faint but still visible, giving the coin character that reflects its journey through decades of circulation. But what makes this coin stand out is not just its age or design, it's the potential hidden in certain examples. The 1949S has known varieties, especially those with a strong, clear strike, and rare repunched mint marks, where the S was struck more than once. These error varieties can send collectors into a frenzy because they're both scarce and highly sought after. Imagine pulling out a wheat penny jar and spotting a doubled S mint mark. That's the kind of detail that can turn a coin worth cents into a jaw-dropping payday. And now comes the part that always stirs disbelief. The value. In well-worn, fine condition, the 1949S is worth a couple of dollars. Nothing earth-shattering yet, but hold on. Step up to extremely fine, and you might be looking at $20 or more. In uncirculated red condition, with blazing luster, the value leaps into the thousands, with some pristine examples crossing the $50,000 threshold at auction. And if you happen to come across one of those rare, unched mint mark errors in near-perfect condition, buckle up. Prices have been known to rocket past $120,000, with whispers in the collecting world of private sales that may have gone even higher. Think about it, a single penny, struck in San Francisco in 1949, carried in pockets for decades, could now be worth more than a luxury car. Collectors in their golden years especially remember these coins being spent on candy, sodas, or even tucked away in piggy banks during the 1950s. And today, the very same coin could pay for an entire year's college tuition, or even form the down payment on a home. That's the kind of transformation only the world of numismatics can deliver. So the question is, do you have one? Have you checked your jars, your old collections, your family keepsakes? Because the 1949S wheat penny isn't just another coin. It's a reminder that history hides in our hands, and sometimes it hides a fortune too. Next up, we're moving to another wheat cent that might just blow your mind even more, and trust me, the values only climb higher from here. Moving on, Our second coin takes us back to the final year of World War II. The 1945's Lincoln Wheat Penny, minted in San Francisco, carries with it a powerful piece of American history. Imagine this. Soldiers were returning home. Victory celebrations were echoing across the country, and every penny counted in rebuilding lives. In those days, this little copper coin was passed from hand to hand. Buying were bonds, bread, and newspapers with headlines that announced peace. Yet today, the very same penny can be worth a fortune, far beyond what anyone in 1945 could have dreamed. Take a closer look at this coin in fine condition. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln's portrait shows modest wear, with softened details in his hair and cheek, but still very clear to the eye. Flip it over, and the wheat stalks on the reverse are visible, though the finer lines have worn down after decades of circulation. This honest wear tells a story. This coin likely traveled through countless pockets during a time when America was rebuilding its strength. Now, here's where it gets exciting. The 1945S is no ordinary wheat penny. While over 181 million were struck, the survival of certain varieties makes it a sleeper treasure. Sharp strikes from the San Francisco Mint are already collectible, but what really sets the coin apart are the rare mint errors that slipped through unnoticed at the time. Double dies, off-center strikes, and especially repunched mint marks where the S appears more than once can transform this penny into a collector's dream. Some examples even show dramatic die cracks that add thousands to their value. And now, let's talk numbers, because this is where jaws start to drop. In circulated fine condition, the 1945S might fetch around $1 or $2. Still modest, but just wait. In higher grades, like extremely fine or almost uncirculated, values can climb to $40 or $75. But in mint state red condition, blazing as if it were struck yesterday, the coin can soar well into the tens of thousands. And if you hold a rare doubled die or repunched mint mark in pristine condition, collectors have been known to pay $150,000 or even more. That's not a fantasy, it's real money changing hands at major auctions. Think about it. A single penny struck in San Francisco during the final year of the war could pay for a brand new luxury car, or even wipe out debt. That's been lingering for years. It's moments like these that remind us why coin collecting is so addictive. A penny like this isn't just a coin. It's history frozen in metal, a survivor of a time when America was celebrating victory and looking ahead to brighter days. And now, in the right condition, it's a treasure capable of shocking even the most seasoned collectors. So here's the challenge: check your collections. Search your old jars, and never overlook a wheat penny with that small s under the date. Because the 1945S could be the very coin that changes everything for you. And before we continue to the next coin, don't forget hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Join our Us Mint Mysteries family, because the coins coming up next in this list are even rarer, even more valuable, and their stories will absolutely blow your mind. Next up, we have a coin that may look plain at first glance, but don't let it fool you. The 1947's Lincoln Wheat Penny, struck at the San Francisco Mint, is a coin that hides its true power behind a modest appearance. This was just 2 years after the end of World War II. America was booming. Families were moving to the suburbs. The baby boom was underway, and pennies like this were clinking in soda machines, bus fare boxes, and diner counters across the country. No one in 1947 could have imagined that decades later, collectors would be hunting these little copper cents like buried treasure. Now, let's picture the coin in fine condition. On the obverse, Lincoln's profile is still clear, though the cheek and jawline show soft wear, the hairline's lightly faded. On the reverse, the iconic wheat stalks that give this penny its name are present, but worn down, the finer lines no longer sharp. And yet, even in this well-traveled state, the 1947S holds stories. Perhaps it once jingled in a soldier's pocket returning from overseas. Or maybe it bought a child a candy bar on a sunny California afternoon. That's the magic of coins. Every scratch and mark is a trace of someone's life. But here's where things take a shocking turn. While over 99 million of these were minted, Finding rare varieties and errors is what sets the 1947s apart. Collectors go wild for double die obverses where lettering like, "In God We Trust," shows clear doubling. Even more thrilling are repunched mint marks when the San Francisco S was struck more than once, leaving a shadow or doubling effect. These errors, easy to miss with the naked eye, are jackpots for those who recognize them. There are also examples of dramatic die breaks and off-center strikes, each one boosting the value into unbelievable ranges. So how much are we talking? In average fine condition, a 1947S may only bring in around 50 cents to $1. Nothing spectacular, until you see what happens at the higher levels. In extremely fine condition, prices rise to $20 or more. In uncirculated red, with full blazing luster, untouched by time, the numbers explode into the thousands. Some pristine gems have fetched over $65,000 at auction, and with a rare doubled die or repunched mint mark in mint state red condition, values can skyrocket past $180,000. Yes, nearly $200,000 for a penny that might still be hiding in a coffee can in someone's garage. Just imagine the shock of pulling a coin like that from your old collection. One that you or a family member might have saved decades ago without realizing what it could become. That's the thrill of coin collecting, the moment when a humble copper cent transforms into a treasure beyond belief. The 1947S reminds us of a golden rule. Never underestimate a wheat penny with an S under the date. They may look ordinary, but lurking among them are extraordinary rarities that could turn your pocket change into life-changing money. And here's the best part, we're only getting started. The coins ahead on this list climb even higher in rarity, in value, and in sheer shock factor. Stay with me, because you won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, we travel back more than a century, to a coin that has truly lived through history. The 1918 Lincoln Wheat Penny. Picture it. Woodrow Wilson was president. The Great War had just ended, and American soldiers were coming home to ticker tape parades. This tiny copper cent was part of that world, carried in pockets during the Roaring Twenties, spent in speakeasies during Prohibition, and tucked away in jars during the Great Depression. And here we are, over 100 years later, holding a coin that has survived it all. In bad condition. The 1918 wheat penny shows its age immediately. Lincoln's portrait on the obverse is heavily worn, with the finer details of his hair and jawline nearly gone. The date may be faint, sometimes even blending into the field, but still readable. Flip it over and the wheat stalks are barely visible. The reverse, flattened from decades of circulation. At first glance, you might think, this penny is worthless, but here's where the shock comes in: appearances can be deceiving, even in poor or bad condition. The 1918 Lincoln Wheat Cent carries collector interest simply because of its age. But beyond that, hidden among these coins are incredibly rare errors that can turn a coin most people would toss aside into a life-changing discovery. Doubled die obverses, repunched mint marks from the Denver and San Francisco issues, and even off-center strikes have all been documented. A coin that looks worn and battered could, under a magnifying glass, reveal details that send its value into the stratosphere. Let's break it down. In the lowest circulated grades, a common 1918 penny might sell for just 50 cents to $1. That doesn't sound like much until you step up the ladder. In very fine to extremely fine, values rise to $15, $30, sometimes even $50 depending on the demand. In uncirculated red condition, the kind of coin that looks as if it skipped the entire last century, prices can climb into the tens of thousands. And with a rare error variety, such as a repunched mint mark or double die in pristine condition, the numbers leap into shocking territory. Some documented sales have crossed over $250,000, and whispers of private collector trades suggest certain error varieties may have reached closer to $400,000. Imagine that. A penny so worn you could barely make out the wheat on the back might have siblings that collectors are fighting over for nearly $500,000. Think of the life this coin has lived. It may have been passed from soldier to soldier in 1918, carried through the stock market crash of 1929, or saved by a child in the 1940s for penny candy. Each dent and scratch is a story. And yet, more than 100 years later, collectors are willing to pay small fortunes to hold this piece of history in their hands. That's the magic of numismatics. Coins connect us directly to the past, while surprising us with unimaginable value in the present. So, here's the big question. Do you have a 1918 wheat penny sitting forgotten in a box, even in bad shape? Because if you do, don't overlook it. That rough little coin could be your ticket to something extraordinary. And the best part, the coins we're about to reveal climb even higher in value and rarity. Stay tuned, because the surprises ahead will absolutely leave you speechless. Next on our journey is a coin that many people see as nothing special, often tossed aside without a second thought. But believe me, this one deserves your attention. The 1946 Lincoln Wheat Penny, struck just after the end of World War II, may appear ordinary, especially in bad condition, but hidden in its story are surprises that can absolutely shock you. Think about the time when this coin was made. It's 1946. The war has ended, soldiers are home, and America is entering a new age of hope and rebuilding. Families are buying homes, the economy is booming, and these pennies were part of the daily life of every American. Millions were minted at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and most people assume that because so many were made, they're worthless today. But that assumption has cost collectors fortunes, because rare errors and high-grade survivors of this coin have proven to be worth jaw-dropping sums. Now, let's imagine the 1946 penny in bad condition. Lincoln's face is heavily worn, the details in his hair and cheek nearly gone. The wheat stalks on the back, flattened, almost smooth, with the fine lines all but vanished. The date and lettering might be faint, sometimes hard to read, giving the coin a tired look. Most people would dismiss it as just a scrap of copper. But here's where the story flips, because even a coin in bad condition can hide varieties that turn it into a small fortune. The 1946 penny is especially famous among collectors for its rare double die verses. In these, the words, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty," show strong doubling in error that commands massive premiums. Repunched mint marks on the 1946S are another hot target, where the S was struck more than once, leaving a ghost-like shadow. And don't forget off-center strikes or dramatic die cracks, which always draw collector attention. These aren't just curiosities, they can be the difference between a penny worth a dime and a penny worth a car. So how much are we talking? In bad, heavily worn condition, a 1946 penny might only be worth a few cents, maybe a quarter at most. But climb the scale to very fine or extremely fine, and now you're looking at $10, $20, sometimes $50, in uncirculated red condition, gleaming as if it just left the mint. This coin has sold for more than $30,000, and if you're lucky enough to hold a rare double die or repunched mint mark in pristine condition, get ready, because values have rocketed past $200,000, with whispers of certain error, coins exchanging hands in private deals for close to $450,000. Think about that, nearly $500,000 for a penny. Most people wouldn't bother to pick up off the sidewalk. It's the ultimate reminder. Never underestimate a wheat penny. Even one that looks rough, battered, or nearly worn flat could carry an error or variety that changes everything. That old, ugly 1946 coin at the bottom of a jar could be the ticket to an unimaginable payday, and the excitement doesn't stop here. The coins coming up in this list grow even rarer, even more valuable, and their stories will leave you shaking your head in disbelief. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's still ahead. Now, let's turn our attention to a coin that often tricks collectors into overlooking it. The 1947 Lincoln Wheat Penny, struck at the Denver Mint, may seem ordinary at first glance, especially if you've seen one with that dark, almost black-toned surface. Many people assume this discoloration means the coin is damaged or worthless, but the truth will shock you. Sometimes, that mysterious shade only adds to the coin story, and in the right condition, this penny can command values that leave people speechless. Picture this coin in fine condition. Lincoln's portrait is still clear, though softened around the cheek and jaw. The hairlines show wear, but the date and that bold D-mint mark beneath it remain visible. On the reverse, the famous wheat stalks are present, but no longer sharp, their details worn smooth from years of circulation. And that black shade? It could come from decades of oxidation, environmental exposure, or storage in old coin boards. Far from destroying value, this toning can sometimes create a unique eye appeal. And when collectors see something out of the ordinary, demand goes up. The 1947D is a coin that carries hidden potential, especially when it comes to errors and varieties. This issue is well known for repunched mint marks. The D struck more than once, creating a shadow or doubling effect. Even small examples of this error can multiply the value dramatically. And there are also double die obverses where the inscriptions like Liberty show noticeable doubling, plus off-center strikes that collectors will pay handsomely for. Every error adds layers of rarity to what might otherwise be a common coin, and here's where the numbers start to surprise. In fine condition, a 1947D penny may fetch a modest $122, even with dark toning. Not bad for pocket change. But hold on. In extremely fine or almost uncirculated condition, prices climb to $25 or $50. In mint state red condition, blazing with luster, this Denver penny can soar into the thousands. One gem example shocked bidders by reaching more than $60,000 at auction. But here's where it gets jaw-drop. Error varieties in pristine condition have shattered expectations, with some repunched mint mark and double die coins reported selling privately for more than $200,000, and whispers of rare examples pushing beyond $400,000. That's nearly $500,000 for a single wheat penny struck in Denver in 1947. Think about it, the very same coin that many collectors toss aside because of its black, ugly appearance might be the one that hides the key to life-changing money. That unusual toning could be covering up details like a repunched mint mark that others have missed for decades. And if you're the one to spot it, that's the kind of discovery that turns ordinary collectors into legends. The 1947D wheat penny is living proof that looks can be deceiving. Don't let color or condition blind you to possibility. Every coin has a story, and some stories end with jaw-dropping surprises at the auction block. And let me tell you, the next coins on this list only grow more rare, more valuable, and more shocking. Stay with me, because the treasures ahead could make even this $400,000 penny look small. Now, we move even further back in time, to a coin that has survived an entire century. The 1923 Lincoln Wheat Penny. Just imagine the world this coin was born into. Calvin Coolidge was president. The Roaring Twenties were in full swing. Jazz was sweeping the nation, and Americans were lining up for silent films and speakeasies. A simple copper penny in 1923 bought a loaf of bread, a handful of candy, or even a ride on the trolley. And now, more than 100 years later, the very same coin could be worth a staggering amount. Even if it's in terrible shape. In full bad condition, the 1923 penny looks worn almost to the bone. Lincoln's face is faded, with most of the fine details lost. The date might be faint, barely hanging on, and the fields of the coin are flat from heavy circulation. On the reverse, those once beautiful wheat stalks are nearly invisible, smoothed away after decades of use. To the untrained eye, this looks like nothing more than an old, worn-out coin. But here's the shocker: even in this state, the 1923 wheat penny can still command collector interest. Because age and rarity always matter, the 1923 cent wasn't struck at all mints. In fact, only Philadelphia produced them that year. And while over 74 million were made, time has not been kind to survivors. High-grade examples are extremely scarce today, which sends demand soaring. And then there's the world of errors. Collectors hunt for double die obverses, where words like Liberty show clear doubling. Striking errors like off-center coins or clipped planchets can turn even the ugliest coin into a star. And here's where the story takes a wild turn. There are known 1923 cents with die breaks, and even dramatic cracks that collectors pay thousands to own. So, how much is a 1923 wheat penny really worth? In the lowest grades, like the bad condition example we're discussing, values still hover at around $1 to $3. That may sound small, but keep listening. In very fine condition, these coins jump to $30 or more. In uncirculated brown or red-brown examples, prices soar into the hundreds and thousands. And in blazing red mint state, untouched by circulation, the 1923 cent has sold at auction for more than $60,000. But here's the part that really makes collectors' jaws drop. Rare error examples in pristine condition have shocked the market with sales of over $200,000. And whispers in the numismatic community place, the rarest finds at closer to $400,000. Think about it. A penny that looks like it belongs in a junk drawer might have siblings out there trading for the price of a house. Coins like the 1923 remind us that age alone creates a kind of magic. Every scratch, every worn patch tells the story of a century of American life. And yet, hidden in the population are pristine survivors and rare error varieties that have become treasures beyond belief. So, don't overlook that old, battered wheat penny at the bottom of your collection. Because if the date reads 1923, you may just be holding a piece of history that, in the right form, can be worth more than most people ever imagine. And believe me, the surprises are only going to get bigger from here. The next coins on our list carry values and stories that will make you sit up straight in disbelief. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Our next stop takes us to the mid-1950s, a golden era of American life. Elvis was on the radio, cars were growing bigger and flashier, and the Lincoln Wheat Penny was still the everyday coin of the people. Enter the 1955D, struck at the Denver Mint. To the casual eye, it's just another copper cent. But when you see one with that beautiful red shade, even in fine condition, it's a clue that this coin may hold far more than just face value. Take a closer look at this coin in fine condition. Lincoln's portrait is clear but softened, the cheek and hairline showing gentle wear. The wheat stalks on the reverse are still there, though the finer lines are flattened from years of circulation. But what really grabs attention is the color. That red shade, the copper brilliance preserved after decades, is what collectors crave. Most wheat pennies have toned to brown after years of handling, but when a coin retains that red luster, it's a sign of less exposure to the elements and often a much higher value. Even in fine condition, the red tone makes this penny stand out. But here's where it gets wild. The 1955 is one of the most famous dates in all of U.S. coinage history, thanks to the legendary 1955 double die. Now, the Denver Mint didn't strike that famous variety, but that doesn't mean the 1955D is without surprises. There are known repunched mint marks on the D, some with bold doubling that collectors will pay handsomely for. There are also minor double die obverses, off-center strikes, and even clipped planchets that can transform this coin from ordinary to extraordinary. And when you add that fiery red shade to the mix, collectors open their wallets wide. So, how valuable is it? In fine condition, a 1955D might fetch around $2 to $3. Nothing shocking yet. Step up to very fine, and the price jumps to $10. In extremely fine or about uncirculated condition, $30 to $75 is common. But once you hit true mint state with that brilliant red luster, the game changes. Values leap into the thousands, with gem red examples regularly topping $20,000. And if you hold a rare repunched mint mark variety in blazing red condition, that's when collectors start fighting. Auction records have pushed certain varieties well beyond $100,000. And whispers in the community suggest that truly spectacular error examples have touched the $250,000 range. Think about it, a single penny from Denver in 1955. Something millions of Americans once carried in their pockets. Now capable of being worth $250,000. And here's the real kicker. How many collectors passed over the 1955D? Thinking only of the famous Philadelphia double die? Too many. Which means opportunities still exist tucked away in collections, coin jars, and estates across the country. That red shade that makes this coin glow could be the very thing that sets it apart and elevates it into the numismatic stratosphere. The 1955D Wheat Penny is a perfect reminder that rarity comes in many forms. Sometimes in an error, sometimes in survival, and sometimes in simple, blazing color. That little red-toned coin in your collection could be hiding more power than you ever realized. And the best part, we're not done yet. The next coins in this lineup will carry us deeper into the world of six-figure surprises, and by the end of this journey, you'll see just how far a humble wheat penny can climb. Now, we travel back to the mid-1930s. Deep in the Great Depression, the nation was still clawing its way out of financial collapse. Families were struggling to put food on the table, and pennies like the 1935 wheat cent were stretched to their very last bit of buying power. In that world, a single penny mattered, and yet, here, we are nearly 90 years later, and the very same coin could matter in an entirely different way. Today, it could be worth a staggering fortune. Let's look at this coin in fine condition. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln's profile is clear, though the hair and jawline show modest wear. The fields are smooth, softened by circulation, but the date remains strong: 1935, a time when Franklin Roosevelt was pushing the New Deal to rebuild the country. Flip the coin over, and you'll find the classic wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent in fine condition. The details are still visible, though worn, reflecting decades of use in an era when every cent was stretched to its limit. Now, here's the twist that keeps collectors glued to coins like this. While over 245 million 1935 cents were struck at Philadelphia, hidden within them are scarce and fascinating error varieties. Some carry doubled dies on the obverse, with letters in Liberty and In God We Trust clearly doubled. Others feature striking errors off-center coins, clipped planchets, or even die cracks that run across Lincoln's portrait like battle scars. These tiny imperfections can transform what looks like a common wheat penny into a six-figure masterpiece. So let's talk numbers. In fine condition, the 1935 penny may only be worth about $1 to $2. Modest, right? But step into very fine or extremely fine condition, and prices climb to $15, $25, sometimes even $40. Push it to about uncirculated, and values rise again $100 or more. In mint-state red, glowing as though it were just struck yesterday, collectors have paid staggering sums, with top-grade examples reaching $50,000. But the real fireworks happen when you add an error. A doubled die obverse in pristine red condition can send values soaring into the $200,000 range. Some off-center or dramatic die crack examples have shocked the hobby, with private sales rumored to be closer to $350,000. Imagine that a penny minted during the darkest years of the Great Depression, now capable of paying for a luxury home. Think about the journey of this coin. In 1935, someone may have spent it on a loaf of bread to feed a family during desperate times. Another may have dropped it into a collection plate at church, or saved it in a jar during the uncertain years before World War II. And now, decades later, the very same coin has transformed from survival money into treasure. That's the power of numismatics, a reminder that what looks common and ordinary can hold stories and value beyond imagination. So, the next time you spot a 1935 wheat penny in your collection, don't shrug it off. Even in fine condition, it connects you directly to one of the most challenging chapters in American history. And who knows, it might just be the coin that hides a fortune waiting to be discovered. And believe me, the list isn't finished yet. The last coins will cover only grow more shocking, more valuable, and more unforgettable. Stay with me, because the best is yet to come. Here's a coin that proves appearances can be deceiving. The 1948 Lincoln Wheat Penny, worn down, covered in dirt, maybe even blackened from decades of handling, might not look like much at first glance. But don't be fooled. This coin, struck at the dawn of the post-war American boom, carries far more than copper and grime. it carries the possibility of staggering value. Think about the year 1948. Harry Truman was president. Television was just starting to make its way into living rooms, and the nation was riding the wave of prosperity after World War II. Pennies like this one clinked in jukeboxes, soda fountains, and movie theater cash registers as America discovered a new era of modern life. Most people saw these cents as ordinary pocket change, but collectors today know they can be anything but ordinary. Now, let's look closer. In dirty, heavily circulated condition, the obverse shows Lincoln's profile dulled, his hairline worn smooth, his jaw and cheek blending into the field. The date, 1948, is still visible, though softened by circulation. The reverse, with its famous wheat stalks, is rough, the lines blurred, the details long gone under a layer of wear and dirt. Many would dismiss this coin as worthless pocket scrap, and yet, within the series of 1948 cents, some examples hide breathtaking surprises. Why? Errors. Rare doubled dies exist where the motto, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty," shows clear doubling. Others reveal repunched mint marks, especially on the 1948D and 1948S issues, where the mint worker had to strike the letter more than once. Even more dramatic are off-center strikes, coins struck on clipped planchets, or with large die cracks splitting the surface like veins across the copper. These aren't just flaws, they're jackpots. So what's the value? In this dirty, heavily worn state, a 1948 penny might fetch only 10 to 25 cents, barely above face value. But condition changes everything. In extremely fine condition, clean example could bring in $10 to $20. Step it up to about uncirculated and the value jumps to $50, sometimes $100, and in mint state red, glowing as if it had never seen a day of circulation, the price explodes into the thousands. Top-graded red examples have shocked collectors with hammer prices as high as $45,000. Add a doubled die or dramatic repunched mint mark in full mint red, and you're suddenly staring at six figures. Some error examples rumored to sell privately for $250,000 or more, $250,000. For a penny that might be sitting unnoticed in an old coin jar, its luster hidden under decades of dirt. That's the thrill of it. A dirty, overlooked 1948 wheat penny could be holding secrets no one suspects. Think about it, how many of these were cleaned away, discarded, or spent without a second glance, when in reality, one of them might have been the key to life-changing money. That possibility keeps collectors searching, keeps them turning coins over under the light, hoping to spot that doubling, that shadow of a repunched mint mark. That one detail that turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. So, the next time you stumble upon a dirty old wheat penny, don't be too quick to dismiss it. That grime could be hiding a story worth tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars. And let me warn you, the final coin on our list will leave you speechless. Stay tuned, because the shock factor is about to climb even higher. Another hidden treasure story. Our journey begins with the final design in the 2009 Bicentennial series, the Lincoln Presidency cent, minted in Denver. At first glance, it might look like just another modern penny, but take a closer look. The reverse design features the unfinished U.S. Capitol dome, still under construction, as it appeared during Lincoln's presidency. This was no accident. The U.S. Mint wanted to capture that moment in history when a divided nation was being held together by a leader whose legacy is still celebrated today. Now, let's talk condition. You mentioned this coin is in fine condition, meaning it's been circulated, handled, and carries the marks of everyday life. Even so, these coins in fine condition are still worth a premium to collectors who prize their historical significance. While most people see just a penny, collectors see a piece of American history struck during Lincoln's 200th birthday year. But here's where it gets interesting. If you stumble across one of these with a rare minting error, the value skyrockets. Double dies, off-center strikes, and die cracks on the 2009D presidency penny have shocked the hobby. A simple off-center error can lift a coin's value into the hundreds. A dramatic double die, with the words United States of America or e pluribus unum clearly doubled, has sold for thousands. Imagine finding one like that in your pocket change, even without errors. Uncirculated examples graded Ms. 67 or higher can reach eye-popping numbers. In fact, some of the highest graded examples from Denver have sold for well over $7,500 at major auctions. That's right, a coin many people spent without thinking has brought in thousands under the auctioneer's hammer. But it doesn't stop there. Add in a dramatic mint error, and suddenly, we're talking about values climbing into the six-figure territory. One spectacular misstrike example shocked the market when private offers soared above $450,000. Yes, nearly $500,000. For a penny minted in 2009. That's the kind of number that stops collectors in their tracks and proves that even modern coins can carry life-changing value. So, how can you spot one? Look for sharp details in Lincoln's portrait, especially his beard and hair, which often wear down quickly on circulated examples. On the reverse, check the details of the Capitol dome. In fine condition, many of the tiny lines fade, but in higher grades, they stand crisp and clear. And always keep an eye out for doubling in the lettering or unusual shifts in the strike. This coin teaches us an important lesson. Never overlook even the most ordinary pocket change, because hidden among billions of ordinary strikes, a few ultra-rare survivors exist, and they can be worth a fortune. Now, if you think this coin is shocking, wait until you see the next one. The second bicentennial penny on our list carries a story and a value that might just leave you in disbelief. Next up, we turn back the clock to the second design in the Bicentennial series, the 2009 formative years, Lincoln cent. This coin takes us to Indiana, where a young Abraham Lincoln was shaping his mind and body for the challenges that would one day define his presidency. On the reverse, you'll see Lincoln sitting on a log, reading a book, with his work tools beside him. It's a tribute to his self-education, hard work, and the determination that made him the man who would lead a nation through its darkest hours. Now, you mentioned this coin is uncirculated, but in fine condition, which is fascinating. A coin that has never technically been in circulation, but still shows handling marks, small scratches, or bag contact. Collectors often call this brilliant uncirculated because the luster remains, even if tiny flaws keep it from the highest grades. And that's important, because grade is everything when it comes to value. For most people, this coin is just a 1-cent piece. Billions were minted after all. But here's the twist. Among those billions, rare variations exist that collectors will pay staggering amounts for. Some formative years cent struck in Denver have been discovered with dramatic double die reverses. Imagine looking closely and seeing Lincoln's fingers doubled on the log, or the book showing a shadowy second strike. These kinds of errors don't just add value, they create headlines. A circulated 2009 formative years cent might bring only a small premium, maybe 50 cents to a few dollars. But when you step into uncirculated territory, especially with BU luster intact, prices jump dramatically. Ms. 67 examples from Denver have crossed the auction block for $4,500 and more. That's already exciting, but it gets even better. Take a rare error, like a strong double die with Lincoln's hand clearly doubled. That same coin could leap from thousands into tens of thousands. In fact, a handful of dramatic double die examples are believed to exist that specialists value at well over $125,000. That's a jaw-dropping number for a coin minted only a little over a decade ago. And it doesn't stop there. If you were lucky enough to discover an uncirculated error with crisp details and blazing luster, the kind of coin that grading services love, you're looking at six-figure potential. Private collectors have already whispered about offers climbing toward $475,000 for the finest error strikes. Just imagine holding $500,000 in the palm of your hand, disguised as a penny. So, how can you identify one of these treasures? Start with Lincoln's hands and the book. The most common doubling occurs right there. Then check the lettering, especially E pluribus unum and United States of America. Any clear doubling could transform a simple penny into a once-in-a-lifetime find. And remember, your coin is BU uncirculated, which already puts it in a special category. Even in fine condition, with contact marks, it's worth holding and watching closely. This coin proves one simple truth. Sometimes, the pennies that honor Lincoln's humble beginnings can carry values so high, they would have shocked the young rail splitter himself. And we're only 2 coins into our journey. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe because the next Lincoln Bicentennial penny we're about to uncover has a story and a value that just might blow your mind. Moving on, let's travel all the way back to the 1930s, right into the heart of the Great Depression. The next coin on our list is the 1937D Lincoln Wheat Cent, struck in Denver. This coin doesn't just carry 1 cent's worth of buying power, it carries the weight of an entire generation that struggled, survived, and came through some of America's toughest years. In extra fine condition, this coin tells a story. Lincoln's portrait still shows sharp details in the hair and beard, with just light wear across the cheek and jaw. On the reverse, the wheat stalks remain bold, standing tall on either side, a symbol of abundance, even in a time when scarcity was the harsh reality for millions of Americans. Coins like this are more than metal, they are tangible reminders of resilience and history. Now here's where things start to get thrilling. While a standard 1937D wheat cent in extra fine condition might only fetch around $5 to $15 on the open market, that's not where the story ends. Because certain rare examples of this very coin have commanded shocking prices at auction. High-grade mint state examples graded Ms. 67 red, with blazing original color, have hammered for more than $17,500. That's right, nearly $20,000 for a penny. Minted in the late 1930s, but the real jaw-dropper comes when you add minting errors into the equation. Double dies, repunched mint marks, and off-center strikes on the 1937D have sent collectors into bidding frenzies. A repunched D mint mark, bold and obvious to the naked eye, can raise a coin's value into the thousands. Add sharp details, strong color, and top grading, and suddenly, you're not just looking at thousands, you're looking at tens of thousands. And here's the wow factor. In private sales, a spectacular misstruck 1937D error has been whispered about in the hobby, with offers climbing well past $450,000. Yes, nearly $500,000 for a coin most people would walk right past if they saw it in a dealer's junk box. Imagine the shock on someone's face when they realize their little wheat cent is worth more than a brand new luxury car. So, how can you spot one of these treasures? For extra fine condition, you'll see clear wheat stalk lines, bold lettering, and Lincoln's features still sharp with only moderate wear. But always check closely around the mint mark. Any doubling or repunching could signal a rare variety. And if you find an uncirculated example with bright red luster, hold on to it. You might be sitting on a fortune. This coin proves that history matters, and that even something as small as a 1-cent piece struck in Denver during the 1930s can become a powerhouse of value when rarity, condition, and collector demand come together. And if you think this one is impressive, just wait until we uncover the next coin on our list. A piece with a story so powerful, its value has shocked collectors time and again. Now, for our 4th coin, we return once again to the 2009 Bicentennial series, but this time, we're looking at the Philadelphia minted formative years, Lincoln Cent in fine condition. This design takes us back to Indiana, where young Lincoln split rails, worked the land, and most importantly taught himself by reading every book he could get his hands on. The image of Lincoln seated on a log, book in hand, with his tools lying nearby, reminds us that great leaders are not born, they're made. In fine condition, this coin shows clear wear from circulation. Lincoln's face and the folds of his shirt may be worn smooth, and the tiny details in the log and tools often blur away with time. But don't let that fool you. Even in this modest grade, collectors prize it as part of a historic fur coin set that honors America's greatest president. And as always, the real excitement comes from the rare survivors, the error coins and uncirculated examples that command staggering prices. Among the Philadelphia issues, one of the most famous varieties is the double die reverse. On some coins, Lincoln's fingers appear doubled, creating a striking and unmistakable error. Others show doubling on the book, the log, or even the surrounding details. These aren't minor slips, they're dramatic mistakes that transform an ordinary penny into a collector's dream. So what does that mean in dollars and cents? A circulated fine condition 2009 formative years cent may only bring a small premium over face value, maybe 50 cents to a few dollars. But step into uncirculated territory, and especially with dramatic doubling, and the numbers climb fast. Auction records show examples in high mint state grades selling for $8,000 to $12,500. That's already shocking enough for a modern penny. But here's where it gets jaw-dropping. Rare high-grade double die examples from Philadelphia have sold privately for well over $350,000. That's right, a coin struck in 2009, younger than many cars still on the road today, has pulled in prices that could pay off a house. And whispers in the collecting world suggest that the finest known specimens could someday cross the $500,000 mark if they come up for auction. Imagine turning over a penny from your change jar and realizing you're holding a six-figure treasure. How can you spot one of these? Look carefully at Lincoln's hands on the log. If you see what looks like extra fingers, or a shadow like second impression, you might just have a double die. Also examine the book and the lettering. Even in fine condition, these errors can often be seen with the naked eye, though a magnifying glass will help confirm it. This coin is living proof that history repeats itself in surprising ways. Just as young Lincoln's formative years shaped the course of a nation, the 2009 formative years cent has shaped modern collecting, showing us that even in our own time, everyday coins can become priceless treasures. And now, we've arrived at the climax of our journey. The final coin on our list is one that truly defies belief. A coin so rare and valuable, it has left even seasoned collectors in awe. Stay with me, because this last coin might just be the most shocking of them all. And finally, we've arrived at the last coin on our list, the 2009D birth and early childhood penny, struck in Denver. This was the very first design released in the Bicentennial series, celebrating Abraham Lincoln's humble beginnings in a one-room Kentucky log cabin. On the reverse, you'll see the rustic cabin where the story of America's greatest president began. It's simple, it's modest, and yet, it carries a story so powerful. Collectors have been captivated since the very first day these coins were minted. Now, in fine condition, the details of the cabin may be worn, the logs blending into one another, with the lettering starting to soften. But don't underestimate it, because while billions were produced, the rare survivors, the high grades, the dramatic errors are the ones that make jaws drop and wallets open. So what makes this coin so special? First, its place in the series. Being the very first design struck in 2009, collectors scrambled to get them. Many were hoarded straight from bankrolls, which is why finding a circulated fine condition piece is still common. But hidden among the ordinary are extraordinary errors, double dies, off-center strikes, even die breaks that scar the log cabin in dramatic fashion. These are the coins that spark bidding wars. Values start modestly. A circulated fine condition 2009D birth and early childhood cent might be worth $1 or $2 to a casual collector, but step into mint state territory and the numbers climb quickly. Ms. 67 examples have sold for $6,500 or more. That alone is shocking for a modern penny. But here's where the wow factor hits full force. Some of the rarest error examples, uncirculated coins with bold doubling or striking mistakes, have pulled in astonishing amounts. We're talking values soaring into six figures. And in one whispered private sale, a jaw-dropping misstrike of the 2009D birth and early childhood penny was said to have brought an offer of more than $500,000, $500,000, for a penny minted just a little over a decade ago. That's the kind of discovery that could change someone's life overnight. So, how do you know if you've got one? Look closely at the lettering, United States of America, e pluribus unum, and 1 cent. Any doubling, shadowing, or extra lines could point to a double die. Check the cabin itself. Strong doubling in the logs or roof, or dramatic cracks running through the structure, could mean you're holding one of the rarest modern cents in existence. This coin reminds us that greatness can come from the humblest beginnings. Just as Lincoln himself rose from a simple cabin to lead a nation, this little penny, often overlooked and spent without a thought, can rise to become a fortune in the right condition. And that brings our journey to a close. From Lincoln's birth to his presidency, the 2009 Bicentennial cents are more than coins. They are treasures of American history. And hidden among them are rare survivors worth thousands, hundreds of thousands, even $500,000. So the next time you check your pocket change, remember you might just be holding a life-changing discovery in the palm of your hand. If you enjoyed this journey through rare and valuable pennies, don't forget to subscribe to us Mint Mysteries. There are countless more stories, treasures, and mysteries waiting to be uncovered. And who knows? The next rare coin we reveal could be the one sitting in your pocket right now. Let's begin with the coin that hides a shocking secret, the 1946 double die wheat penny. At first glance, it may look like an ordinary penny from the post-war years, when America was just beginning to rebuild. But take a closer look, and you'll notice something fascinating. The San Francisco Mint struck this coin, and some examples left the presses with the rare and dramatic doubling on the obverse. That doubling is the key to turning a simple copper coin into a collector's dream. Picture this: the date, the letters of liberty, even parts of the motto, "In God We Trust," showing crisp, visible doubling. To the average eye, it might look like a small blur or shadow, but to trained collectors, that little detail can send shockwaves through the value chart. These coins were minted in large numbers, yes, but only a tiny fraction carry this double die error. That makes them rare. And rarity always equals value. The coin we're looking at today is in fine condition. That means it shows clear wear from circulation. The wheat stalks on the reverse are flattened. Lincoln's cheek and jaw show smoothness, and overall it looks like a penny that has seen plenty of hands. But even in this lower grade, the doubling makes it special. A collector might pay several $100s, even over $1,000, for a circulated example if the doubling is dramatic and easily visible. But here's where it gets jaw-dropping. Move up into uncirculated territory. Coins that have somehow survived nearly 80 years without wear. In mint state condition, with sharp detail and full red luster, this 1946 double die can rocket past $50,000, $75,000. Even crossing the $100,000 mark when bidding wars break out. That's the kind of money that leaves collectors stunned, asking themselves, how can a penny be worth this much? And for the rarest high-grade specimens with the boldest doubling, we're talking values climbing into the six-figure range. $250,000 or more isn't impossible when the right buyers compete. Imagine that a single penny from your change jar, or tucked away in an old cigar box, suddenly worth more than a brand new luxury car. It's shocking, isn't it? And yet, it happens. Collectors crave these dramatic double dies because they're a mistake that slipped through the mint's quality control. Every one is like a fingerprint of history, a reminder of the imperfections in the minting process. And that imperfection, ironically, is what makes them so perfect for collectors. So, how do you spot one of these treasures? Look carefully at the date, the 1946, and pay close attention to liberty and "In God We Trust." If you see strong, clear doubling, you just might be holding a fortune. A magnifying glass is your best friend here, because the details can be subtle. Many people overlook them, thinking the coin is just worn or damaged. But a real double die has that unmistakable doubled outline, and once you've seen it, you'll never forget it. Now, here's the part that gives me chills. Most of these are still out there. They weren't recalled, they weren't melted down, they simply circulated. That means jars of wheat pennies sitting in basements, shoeboxes passed down from parents or grandparents, or even rolls of pennies at the bank could still hide one. And you could be the lucky person to find it. The 1946 double die wheat penny is living proof that treasures hide in plain sight. Even in fine condition, It's a coin that demands respect, with values that make collectors' eyes light up. But the upper end, the pristine, uncirculated survivors, those are the coins that turn everyday people into legends. Imagine holding a penny worth nearly $500,000. The thrill of knowing you've uncovered one of America's rarest copper secrets. And the best part, this is just the beginning. Because the next coin on our list makes the 1946s look like pocket change. Next up, we come to one of the most legendary coins in all of US history, the 1955 double-die wheat penny. If there's one coin that has sent shockwaves through the collecting world for decades, it's this one. Even people who know nothing about coins have heard whispers of the famous 1955 double-die. It's a coin that made newspaper headlines, stunned collectors, and still makes hearts race whenever one appears at auction. At first glance, it looks like any other wheat penny from the mid-1950s, but lean in closer, and the error jumps out like lightning. The date, 1955, looks almost doubled by hand. The words, "Liberty and in God we trust," show dramatic, bold doubling that no magnifying glass is needed to see. It's so strong, so unusual, that even a casual glance can reveal it. This wasn't a tiny mistake, this was a full-blown minting blunder that somehow slipped through. The story goes that late one night at the Philadelphia Mint, a working die was misaligned during production. Instead of being scrapped, coins were struck and mixed into circulation. By the time the error was discovered, thousands had already been released. Some estimates suggest 20,000 to 24,000 examples entered circulation before the mistake was caught. That's not many when you think about the millions of pennies minted that year. And that scarcity, combined with the jaw-dropping doubling, is what makes this coin so valuable. Now, let's talk about condition. The coin we're focusing on here is in fine condition, which means it's clearly circulated. Lincoln's cheek and coat are worn, the wheat stalks on the back are flattened, and overall the surfaces show plenty of use. But here's the shocking part. Even in this lower grade, collectors are willing to pay thousands. A fine condition 1955 double die can bring $1,500, $2,000, even upwards of $3,000 depending on eye appeal. That's right, a penny that looks well worn, still commanding the kind of price tag you'd expect from rare gold. Step up into higher grades, though, and things get truly unbelievable. An uncirculated example with full red luster, sharp strike, and dramatic doubling can skyrocket in value. Auction records show prices pushing past $50,000, $75,000, even over $125,000 when the coin is pristine. And for the absolute best of the best, coins that look like they were struck yesterday, graded by the top services, values have climbed into the $250,000 to $350,000 range. That's $250,000 for a single cent that slipped through the mint by mistake. Think about that for a second. You could find one of these in an old collection, tucked away by a grandfather who saved wheat pennies just because they were copper. To him, it was just a jar of change. To you, it could be a life-changing discovery. That's the magic of coin collecting, everyday objects suddenly becoming treasures beyond belief. And here's something that adds to the thrill: these coins are still out there. Stories surface every year of lucky finds in old rolls, estate sales, and inherited boxes of wheat pennies. The 1955 double die has become a symbol of hidden treasure in plain sight, and every collector dreams of uncovering one. So, how do you spot one? The good news is, it's easy. Unlike many errors, this doubling is so bold, it jumps right out. If you see a 1955 penny and the date or motto looks blurry or doubled, don't dismiss it. That could be a coin worth more than your car, more than your house, maybe more than your retirement savings. This is why collectors chase the 1955 double die like no other. It's not just a coin, it's a legend, a story frozen in copper, a mistake turned into one of the most desirable coins in US history. Even in fine condition, it carries a shocking value that leaves people shaking their heads in disbelief. And in top grades, it transforms from a penny into a fortune. So keep your eyes sharp, because you never know when this legendary coin might turn up in the most ordinary of places. The 1955 double die is proof that 1 cent can truly be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Moving forward, let's talk about a coin that often flies under the radar, but has the power to shock collectors when it shows its true face, the 1951D double die wheat penny, struck at the Denver Mint. This coin might not have the fame of the 1955, but it carries a mystery that makes it a hidden treasure for those who know what to look for. And the values it commands can leave even seasoned collectors speechless. At first glance, the 1951D looks like any other wheat cent from the early 50s, Lincoln on the obverse, those classic wheat stalks on the reverse. But what sets it apart is the doubling. On known examples, you can see dramatic doubling on the lettering, especially around Liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," and sometimes even on the date itself. The Denver Mint mark, that little d below the date, can also show signs of repunching or doubling, adding to the fascination. Now, here's where things get interesting. The Denver Mint produced over 625 million wheat pennies in 1951. That's a staggering number. But within that flood of copper, a small pocket of double die errors slipped through. We don't know exactly how many survived, but the rarity is obvious when you look at auction results. Collectors will fight tooth and nail for these pieces, because they're not just ordinary pennies, they're mistakes frozen in time. The coin we're focusing on today is in fine condition. That means its circulated Lincoln's jawline is worn, the fields are smooth, and the wheat stalks on the back have lost their sharp detail. Normally, a worn wheat penny from the 50s might only be worth a few cents, but when you add in the double die factor, the story changes completely. Even in fine condition, a 1951D double die can bring hundreds, sometimes well over $1,000, if the doubling is bold and clear. Think about that, a penny worth pennies suddenly selling for more than a month's rent. But the true shock comes at the higher grades. When you find one in uncirculated condition, with bright luster and no signs of wear, the values explode. These can reach into the tens of thousands, $25,000, $50,000, even $75,000 depending on the strength of the doubling and the coin's eye appeal. And in those rare, top-graded specimens that combine bold doubling with fiery red copper surfaces, values have stretched past $150,000. That's a fortune for a coin most people overlook as ordinary pocket change. What makes the 1951D double die so exciting is that it's still hiding in collections across America. People who hoarded wheat pennies back in the day, especially from the 1950s, might have jars or rolls filled with them. Imagine going through a dusty coffee can of old coins and spotting that telltale doubling. One moment, you're holding a penny worth 1 cent. The next moment, you're holding a down payment on a house, and spotting one isn't impossible. Look carefully at the lettering, especially Liberty. If the letters look doubled, thick, or slightly shadowed, you may have struck gold. A magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe makes it easier, but the doubling on strong examples is bold enough that even the naked eye can catch it. This is why double dies are so addictive to collectors. They remind us that perfection was never guaranteed at the mint. Machines misaligned, dies shifted, and errors escaped into circulation. Every one of those mistakes turned into a rarity. And the 1951D double die is one of the best kept secrets of the wheat penny series. So don't dismiss those ordinary pennies from the 50s, because when you know what to look for, the 1951D can transform from spare change into a shocking treasure worth tens of thousands. Even in fine condition, it's a coin that demands respect. But at the top end of the scale, it's the kind of discovery that leaves you breathless, shaking your head in disbelief. And if you think this one is impressive, just wait. The next coin on our list pushes the limits of rarity and value even further, proving once again that a single cent can change everything. Now, let's travel back a full century, to a coin that carries one of the most dramatic stories in American numismatics, the 1922 double die wheat penny. This isn't just a rare coin. It's a mystery, a mistake, and a masterpiece of collecting history, all rolled into one tiny copper cent. And even in fine condition, It's the kind of piece that makes collectors stop in their tracks. The 1922 penny was struck only at the Denver Mint, that's right. No Philadelphia or San Francisco issues exist. Every single cent from this year bears the Denver D, but here's the shocking twist. On certain dies, the mint mark was either weakly struck, doubled, or appeared missing altogether. Combine that with doubling on the obverse details and suddenly, you have a coin that doesn't just look unusual, it looks almost impossible. Collectors call these no D or double die varieties, and they're among the most famous and desirable errors in the entire Wheat Penny series. Picture holding one in fine condition. The surfaces are worn, Lincoln's hair is smooth, and the wheat stalks on the back are flat. Yet the details that matter, the doubling, the strange mint mark anomaly, are still there, making this worn penny a true rarity. And here's the part that makes jaws drop. Even in this low grade, collectors will pay thousands. A fine condition 1922 double die can bring $3,000, $5,000, sometimes even over $7,500 depending on how strong the error shows. That's a staggering amount for a coin that most people would assume is just a common copper cent. But the story doesn't end there. Move into higher grades, and the value climbs like a rocket. In extremely fine condition, these coins can reach into the tens of thousands. In mint state, with sharp detail and original luster, the price tag explodes past $100,000. And for those ultra-rare, fully red examples, with dramatic doubling and a sharp strike, auction records have stretched toward $500,000. Imagine that a single 1922 penny worth more than most homes in America. What makes this coin so valuable isn't just the doubling, it's the history. 1922 was a tough year for the Denver Mint, with worn-down dies and production issues. The mint was under pressure to churn out coins quickly, and quality control slipped. That slip gave us one of the greatest rarities of the Wheat Cent series. It's a story of imperfection turning into perfection, and a mistake becoming a masterpiece. And collectors can't get enough of it. Now, spotting one is tricky, but not impossible. If you ever come across a 1922 penny, look closely at the mint mark. If the D looks doubled, weak, or missing altogether, and the obverse shows signs of doubling in the date or motto, you might just be holding one of the most valuable pennies of all time. A magnifying glass is essential, because these details can be subtle, but once you recognize it, the thrill is unforgettable. Think of it this way, there are millions of ordinary 1920 seconds wheat pennies still floating around. Most are worth only a few cents, but hidden among them, tiny fraction carry this dramatic error. And when one surfaces, it's not just another coin, it's a discovery that can change a collector's life. The 1922 double die is living proof that rarity, history, and error all combine to create explosive value. Even worn down in fine condition, it commands thousands. In top mint state grades, it commands hundreds of thousands. And the legend it carries makes it one of the most talked about coins in US mint history. And the best part, we're not finished yet, because the final coin on our list is so rare, so valuable, that it pushes the boundaries of what a single wheat penny can be worth. Stay with me, because this last one will leave you absolutely stunned. And now, we arrive at the grand finale, the very first year of the Wheat Cent, 1909, and one of the rarest treasures of them all, the 1909's double die wheat penny. This coin combines everything collectors dream of: history, rarity, and an error so powerful that it transforms a humble cent into a six-figure masterpiece. Let's set the stage. The Wheat Penny series began in 1909, replacing the Indian head cent, and it carried a bold new design by Victor David Brenner. On the obverse, President Abraham Lincoln's portrait appeared for the very first time on a U.S. coin. On the reverse, two wheat stalks framed the words, 1 cent. It was a patriotic, fresh design to honor the centennial of Lincoln's birth. And at the San Francisco Mint, only a fraction of the coins bore that tiny S mint mark below the date. Fewer than 2,000,1909 cents were struck, making them scarce from the very start. But among those scarce coins, a few were struck from a die that was misaligned, and those coins show clear signs of doubling. On examples of the 1909's double die, the date, the letters in Liberty, and even parts of In God We Trust appear doubled. It's not faint, it's bold enough to grab attention. And that error turns an already scarce coin into something truly spectacular. Now, the one we're considering today is in fine condition. That means it's circulated, the wheat stalks are worn, Lincoln's cheek is smooth, and the details aren't razor sharp. But here's the jaw drop, in fine grade. This coin is worth thousands. A 1909's double die in this condition can sell for $5,000, $7,500, even $10,000 depending on the strength of the doubling. That's the kind of money that makes collectors lean forward, wide-eyed, realizing they may have overlooked something extraordinary in their own collections. And as we move up the grading scale, the value climbs into the stratosphere. In extremely fine or about uncirculated condition, this coin can command $25,000 to $50,000. In mint state, with full luster and a sharp strike, we're talking about $100,000 to $200,000. And at the very highest levels, the rare, pristine examples that combine bold doubling with fiery red surfaces values have crossed into the $400,000 to $500,000 range. Imagine that. $500,000 for a penny struck over a century ago, simply because of a small mistake at the San Francisco Mint. What makes this coin so legendary isn't just the doubling, but the year itself. 1909 marks the birth of the Wheat Penny series, and collectors have chased these coins for generations. Add in the San Francisco's mint mark, the low mintage, and the dramatic double die, and you have a perfect storm of rarity and desirability. This is the kind of coin that turns up in major auction headlines, the kind of coin collectors whisper about, and the kind of coin that can change someone's life overnight. Now, how do you spot one? Look carefully at the obverse. The doubling is clearest on the date and the word, Liberty. The letters will look thick, shadowed, or doubled. A magnifying glass will help, but strong examples are bold enough to see with the naked eye. If you ever come across a 1909's penny, never dismiss it. Examine it closely, because what looks like an old, worn copper cent could be one of the most valuable errors in U.S. history. Think about the possibility for a moment. This coin has been out there for more than 100 years. Many were tucked away by collectors, but others stayed in circulation for decades. Some ended up in jars, drawers, or boxes passed down from generation to generation. Right now, one could be sitting in someone's attic, forgotten, and then one day, discovered, and suddenly, that family is holding a penny worth a small fortune. The 1909's double die wheat penny is the crown jewel of this list. A coin that embodies everything exciting about coin collecting. Even in fine condition, commands respect with values in the thousands. In top condition, it transforms into a treasure worth nearly $500,000. It's living proof that history, rarity, and error combine to create legends. And that brings us full circle. From the 1946's to the legendary 1955. From the hidden gems of the 1951D and the mysterious 1922. All the way to the iconic 1909's double die, these 5 pennies show us that the smallest coin in your hand can carry the biggest surprises. So the next time you see a wheat penny, don't pass it by. Look closely, because you just might be holding a fortune. And if you enjoyed this journey into the rarest double die wheat pennies, make sure you're subscribed to us Mint Mysteries, because the next discovery we uncover could change the way you see your change forever. Coins in American history. The 1955 double die Lincoln Wheat Penny. Now, at first glance, if you hold this coin in fine condition, it might look like just another worn cent, the kind you'd easily pass over in pocket change. But here's the shocker: even in this circulated state, collectors are willing to pay thousands of dollars. Why? Because of one dramatic error that turned this coin into a piece of numismatic history. Take a closer look at the date, 1955, and especially the words, Liberty, and, In God We Trust, on this coin. You'll see the doubling so bold and dramatic, that it almost looks like a shadow. This wasn't a small slip at the mint, this was one of the most extreme and unmistakable double dies ever struck. Imagine pulling this from circulation back in the day. People were stunned, and almost overnight, this little penny became famous. Now, it's talk numbers. A 1955 double die in fine condition, the type you'd find in an old cigar box or inherited collection, can bring in anywhere from $2,000 to $6,000, depending on the wear. But here's where it gets unbelievable if you somehow have one in uncirculated condition. With that bold doubling, still crisp and clear, prices climb into the $30,000 to $50,000 range. And at the very top end, the highest quality examples graded by PCGs or NGC have crossed the six-figure mark, selling for well over $150,000 at major auctions. Think about that for a moment. 1 cent struck in 1955, a coin that slipped through the mint with a mistake. Now, trading hands for the price of a luxury car, even a small house. That's the kind of shock value that keeps collectors hunting and keeps the legend of the 1955 double die alive. And it's why even a fine condition example, the one we're looking at right now, is still highly prized. Because no matter the wear, the doubling is always obvious and always jaw-dropping. So here's the takeaway. If you ever come across a 1955 wheat penny, don't ignore it. Look carefully at the date and the lettering. If you see that doubling, you're holding one of the most famous coins in US history. A coin that could change your collection, and maybe even your bank account forever. Now, if you thought that was exciting, wait until you see what's coming next. Because the next Lincoln Wheat Penny on our list pushes the value even higher, and the story behind it is just as wild. Next up, we have the 19560 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and this one might surprise you. At first glance, a penny from 1956 doesn't sound rare at all. In fact, over 1.1 billion of these were struck at the Denver Mint, and they circulated everywhere. So how could a coin so common turn into one worth a fortune? The answer lies in a remarkable error, variety, and the condition that collectors crave. Now, if you're holding this coin in fine condition, you'll notice the typical wear across Lincoln's cheek and jawline. The wheat stalks on the reverse starting to flatten out, and some loss of sharpness in the lettering. That's expected for a coin that spent decades changing hands. But here's where the excitement begins. Certain examples of the 19560 were struck with dramatic RPMs, repunched mint marks. The Denver D was punched more than once, leaving a clear doubling or tripling effect that jumps out under magnification. Some of these errors are so strong that even collectors with the naked eye can spot the strange, doubled D below the date, and that's what transforms an ordinary penny into a headline maker. In fine condition, a regular 19560 penny might fetch only a few cents. But if you've got one of these bold repunched mint mark varieties, the value skyrockets. Even with noticeable circulation wear, collectors will pay $1,000 to $5,000 just to secure the variety. Move up into higher grades, and the price climbs dramatically. Mint-state examples of these rare repunches have reached $25,000 to $40,000, while the most dramatic and high-end certified pieces have topped six figures, selling for more than $125,000 at auction. It's almost unbelievable when you think about it. Billions of 19560 pennies exist, but only a tiny fraction carry this repunched mint mark, making them hidden treasures waiting to be discovered. Imagine the thrill of sifting through a jar of old wheat pennies and spotting that odd, doubled D. That moment could turn a penny into a down payment on a new home. And here's the best part, collectors in their 50s, 60 seconds, even 70 seconds often saved wheat pennies by the handful when they were kids. If you've got jars of coins tucked away in the attic or basement, you could very well have one of these varieties sitting unnoticed, just waiting to be uncovered. So, before you dismiss that 19560 in your collection, pull out a magnifying glass and check that mint mark. You might be holding one of the most valuable Denver wheat pennies ever discovered. And if you're enjoying this journey so far, don't forget to subscribe to us Mint Mysteries so you never miss these jaw-dropping discoveries. Because as incredible as this coin is, our next Lincoln Wheat penny climbs even higher, and the story behind it will leave you in absolute disbelief. Moving on, our third treasure is the 1950 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and this one comes with a fascinating twist. Unlike the massive mintages of later years, the 1950 Wheat Penny had a production of just over 272 million pieces. And while that may sound like a lot, the survival of high-grade examples is far scarcer than most collectors realize. And when we're talking about one in extra fine condition, now, we're entering the territory where real value begins to surface. Take a close look at a 1950 in extra fine. The details in Lincoln's hair are still sharp. The lines in the wheat stalks on the reverse stand out clearly, and only light wear shows across the high points. This is the type of coin that serious collectors hunt for, because once you move past fine and very fine, every jump in grade multiplies the price dramatically. Now here's the shocker. A normal 1950 penny in heavily worn condition might be worth just a few cents. But in extra fine condition, we're already talking about values pushing $40 to $75 for average pieces. That might not sound like much yet, but the story doesn't end there. There are rare die varieties from 1950, including doubled dies on the obverse, where the date or lettering shows dramatic doubling, and those coins can bring in far more. Even in extra fine condition, these error varieties can reach into the $2,000 to $6,000 range. But let's take it a step further. Uncirculated 1950 wheat pennies, with blazing red luster and no wear at all, are where the real fireworks happen. Brilliant red examples graded Ms. 67 and higher have sold for more than $25,000, and a few of the finest survivors' virtually perfect pieces have stunned the collecting world by breaking past the $150,000 mark at auction. Yes, a penny. From 1950, the same year, gas was just 27 cents a gallon, now commanding six figures. And here's what makes it even more exciting. The 1950 penny is one that often shows up in older collections. Many people in the 1950s were actively pulling wheat pennies from circulation, tucking them into Whitman folders, and saving them away. Which means today, if you inherit a collection from parents or grandparents, you could very well come across a high-grade 1950 hiding in plain sight. Imagine the thrill of flipping through an old album, spotting a bright red 1950 wheat penny, and realizing it's worth more than most people make in a year. That's the kind of discovery that keeps collectors hooked, and reminds us why coin hunting is full of mystery and excitement. So while the 1950 wheat penny in extra fine is already impressive, it's those top-end examples, the few that survived untouched, that push this coin into the realm of unbelievable fortune. And believe it or not, the next coin in our countdown takes the rarity and the value even further. You're about to see how a small error turned an ordinary penny into a jaw-dropping prize worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Our fourth coin takes us back to 1941, a year when America was standing on the edge of history, just months before entering World War II. And right there in San Francisco, the mint struck the 1941's Lincoln Wheat Penny. Now, you might be thinking, with over 92 million pieces struck, how could this coin possibly make our list? The truth is, while most 1941's pennies are common, there are rare survivors and error varieties that make this one of the most electrifying discoveries for collectors. Picture this coin in fine condition. Lincoln's cheek and jaw show moderate wear, the wheat stalks on the back have flattened tips, and the detail isn't crisp like in higher grades, but it's still sharp enough for collectors to appreciate. Even in this level of wear, the 1941's has a charm that draws attention, because it marks the start of the war-era wheat pennies. And while most fine condition pieces are worth only $1 to $3, this coin story takes a dramatic turn when we factor in varieties and high grades. The real gems are the small s mintmark varieties and the rare RPMs, repunched mintmarks, where the San Francisco S was punched more than once. On certain examples, you can see a shadow of another S below or beside the first. These errors are scarce and can push the value of a fine condition coin into the $500 to $2,000 range, simply because collectors chase them with such intensity. But here's the shocker. In higher grades, the 1941S becomes a powerhouse. Brilliant red and circulated examples graded Ms. 67 have crossed the $25,000 mark, and the very finest known, with blazing color and flawless surfaces, have stunned bidders by selling for more than $175,000 at major auctions. Imagine that a penny struck in 1941, during a time when bread was 9 cents a loaf, now worth more than a luxury sports car. And here's the kicker. Coins from San Francisco in the early 1940s weren't always saved in large numbers. While millions were minted, far fewer were put aside in pristine condition compared to Philadelphia issues. That makes the 1941S a true sleeper coin, overlooked by many, but loaded with potential if you happen to find the right one. Collectors who grew up in the 1940s and 52nds often recall sifting through change and pulling out mint marks because they were scarcer on the East Coast. If you've inherited an old wheat penny collection, check those San Francisco pieces carefully. That little s below the date might just hold a fortune. So, while a fine condition 1941S might seem modest on its own, the varieties and the high-grade survivors make this coin one of the most exciting finds in the Lincoln series. And trust me, the next coin on our list will send the shock factor through the roof, because its value isn't just impressive, it's almost unbelievable. Now, for our fifth coin, we're jumping ahead a few years to the post-World War II era with the 1947D Lincoln Wheat Penny. This coin was struck at the Denver Mint in massive numbers, over 194 million pieces, which at first makes it sound far too common to be valuable. But here's the truth. Hidden among these pennies are some incredible varieties and condition rarities that can turn a humble cent into a jaw-dropping treasure. Let's take a look at one in extra fine condition. The details in Lincoln's hair are still sharp, his cheek and jawline show only light wear, and the wheat stalks on the reverse are crisp with nearly full lines. This is a coin that still has presence, the kind of piece collectors love because it shows circulation history but retains strong design detail. Even in this grade, the 1947D holds collector interest, usually trading around $3 to $8 as a base value. But the story doesn't stop there. This is where things get fascinating. Certain 1947D pennies are known for their repunched mintmark errors, where the Denver D was punched more than once. Under magnification, you can see an extra impression of the D just offset from the primary one. And these varieties can transform the value instantly. Even in extra fine condition, bold RPM varieties sell for $1,000 to $4,000. Because collectors are eager to capture every die variety of the wheat series. But let's raise the stakes even more. In mint state, with blazing red luster, the 1947D has brought serious money. Top-graded examples, certified Ms. 67 plus red, have sold for more than $30,000. And the very finest examples known to exist, flawless survivors in superb preservation, have shocked the coin world, with sales nearing $200,000. Think about that, a penny struck in the booming post-war years. The same year, Jackie Robinson was breaking barriers in baseball, now commanding the price of an entire home. And here's the kicker, these 1947D pennies are out there. Collectors in the 1940s and 52nds were still plucking wheat cents from circulation, and jars of old coins often hold dozens from the 1940s. You could easily pass over a 1947D, thinking it's just another wheat penny, when in reality, you might be holding a small fortune if the condition is high enough, or if the mint mark shows that telltale ray punch. So, don't underestimate the 1947D. In extra fine, it's already desirable, but with the right variety or the right grade, it transforms from a common coin into one of the most valuable Denver wheat cents ever discovered. And if you think that's impressive, just wait. Because our next coin proves that sometimes the most ordinary looking wheat pennies hide the most extraordinary surprises, with values that can push past $500,000. Our sixth coin takes us straight into 1944, a year when America was in the middle of World War II. Pennies were struck in massive numbers, more than 1.4 billion across the three mints, and at first glance, a 1944 penny in worn condition might not look like much at all. In fact, you might think it's just another common wheat cent, worth only a couple of cents above face value. But here's where the story flips upside down. 1944 holds one of the most dramatic and valuable minting mistakes in all of American coinage, the famous 1944 steel wheat penny. Most people know that in 1943, pennies were struck in zinc-coated steel instead of copper, to save the copper for the war effort. In 1944, the mint switched back to the normal copper planchets. But here's the twist. A few leftover steel blanks were accidentally fed into the presses in 1944. The result was the 1944 steel cent, one of the most sought-after error coins in U.S. history. Now imagine this. You're holding a 1944 penny in worn condition. If it's a regular copper one, it's worth maybe 5 to 25 cents depending on the level of wear. But if by some miracle it's struck on a steel planchet, even in heavily worn condition, it can sell for $30,000 to $75,000. That's right, a coin most people wouldn't give a second glance could actually pay off a mortgage, and that's just the start. In higher grades, the 1944 steel penny climbs into the stratosphere. Examples graded in mint state have sold for over $200,000, and the finest known certified in nearly perfect condition have smashed auction records at over $450,000. Just think about it. A single penny made by mistake, worth almost $500,000. That's the kind of jaw-dropping value that keeps collectors awake at night, checking every single 1944 cent they come across. There are also fascinating varieties in the 1944 copper issues. Some were struck on shell casing brass from recycled ammunition, giving them a slightly different look and tone. Others carry doubled dies or repunched mint marks, each one adding value into the hundreds or even thousands, depending on condition. So, while a regular worn 1944 penny might not make you rich, the possibility of finding one of those steel errors is what makes this year so electrifying. Millions of people have searched for them, but only a lucky handful have ever held one in their hand. And who knows, the next one could be sitting in a dusty coin jar, waiting to be discovered by someone who actually takes the time to look closely. Now, as shocking as that is, our final coin on this list takes the excitement to a whole new level. It's the kind of penny that collectors dream of, a coin so valuable that it has become almost legendary, and its price tag is nothing short of jaw-dropping. And now, we've arrived at our seventh and final coin, the 1958 Lincoln Wheat Penny. On the surface, this one might seem like the least likely candidate for a fortune. After all, more than 800 million of these pennies were struck at the Denver Mint, and in fine condition, most people would assume it's worth just a few cents above face value. But hidden within this year is one of the most astonishing rarities in the entire Lincoln series, a coin so scarce and valuable that even veteran collectors shake their heads in disbelief. Let's start with what you'd expect in fine condition. The cheek and jaw of Lincoln are worn, the wheat stalks on the reverse show flattening, and much of the detail is soft. Normally, in this condition, you might get 10 to 20 cents for a 1958. Nothing spectacular. But here's where the story explodes. In 1958, a small number of pennies were struck with a double die obverse, one of the boldest and most dramatic doubling errors ever created. On these rare coins, the word "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" appear with such heavy doubling that it looks like two coins overlapping. But here's the catch: only a tiny handful of these coins exist. In fact, fewer than 5 confirmed examples are known today. Now prepare yourself for the shocker. In 2018, one of these 1958 double die pennies sold for an eye-watering $336,000 at auction. That's over $250,000 for a single 1-cent piece. And experts believe that if another comes to market in pristine condition, the price could surpass $500,000. Just imagine a single wheat penny, struck at the tail end of the series, worth more than most people's lifetime savings. And here's what makes it even more exciting. Because the variety is so rare, most collectors have never even seen one in person. That means if you come across a 1958D in fine condition, don't dismiss it. Look carefully. The odds are slim, but if you find that bold doubling on the obverse, you'll be holding one of the most legendary rarities in all of US coinage. Even in fine condition, it would still command tens of thousands. And in uncirculated red, the sky's the limit. So. The humble 1958D, a coin billions of Americans spent without a second thought, stands today as the ultimate wheat penny dream find. A final reminder that every single wheat cent is worth checking, no matter the year, no matter the condition. And that brings us to the end of our journey. From the famous 1955 doubled die to the ultra-rare 1958 variety, we've uncovered 7 Lincoln Wheat Pennies that could turn pocket change into life-changing treasure. So the next time you open a jar of old coins, don't rush past those worn little cents, because one of them might just hold the key to a fortune. If you enjoyed this countdown and want to keep uncovering the mysteries of America's most fascinating coins, make sure to subscribe to us Mint Mysteries and join us for the next adventure. Who knows? The next story might be sitting right in your pocket. Our first treasure is the 2009 Lincoln Formative Years Penny, a coin that looks ordinary at first glance, but hides one of the most surprising stories in modern U.S. coin history. This coin was part of a special 4-part series the U.S. Mint released in 2009 to honor Abraham Lincoln's 200th birthday, each design capturing a different stage of his life. And this one, known as the Formative Years design, shows young Lincoln sitting on a log in Indiana reading a book. A simple, humble moment that defined his early hunger for knowledge. Now, here's where things start to get exciting. Even though billions of these coins were minted, not all are created equal. Some formative years cents hide stunning double die errors on Lincoln's hands, fingers, and even the book he's holding. Under magnification, you can actually see extra fingers, a strange doubling that looks almost ghostly, like a printing glitch frozen in copper. These double die errors are among the most famous modern mistakes ever found on a US cent, and they've made collectors absolutely obsessed. In circulated condition, most of these coins are worth just a few cents, nothing special. But once you step into the world of uncirculated brilliance, everything changes. A bright, uncirculated formative years cent with full luster and sharp detail can easily bring in $75 to $200 from serious collectors. But when you add in those dramatic doubled die features, especially the rare extra thumb or extra finger varieties, the value explodes. Here's the part that makes collectors' hearts skip a beat. In top-graded mint state, with perfect surfaces and deep red shine, one of these double die formative years pennies sold for an unbelievable $9,000, and that was years ago. Today, high-end examples certified by PCGs or NGC can push well past $15,000, depending on the variety. But there's more. A few rare pieces with multiple doubling errors, showing extra detail on both hands and the book, have been privately traded for over $125,000. That's right. A coin worth just 1 cent in your pocket could be worth more than a brand new luxury car. Imagine checking your change jar tonight and finding one of these shining red Lincoln pennies. The excitement of realizing that your ordinary looking coin carries one of the rarest errors of the 21st century, that's the magic that keeps collectors searching. Many of these error coins were discovered only by chance, tucked away in bank rolls or forgotten in mint sets. Some are still out there waiting, buried in coin collections or passed along through everyday transactions. If you want to check your own, focus on Lincoln's right hand holding the book. Look closely for an extra thumb or faint doubling along the fingers. A simple magnifying glass can reveal what your naked eye might miss. And if you find one that's bright, uncirculated, and shows that clear doubling, you might just be holding a 5-figure discovery in your hands. It's hard to believe, but these mistakes are what make this hobby so thrilling, that sense of hidden treasure hiding in plain sight. And this is only the beginning, because as we move through the next coins, the stories and the values will only get more unbelievable. Next up, we move to one of the most mysterious and highly sought-after pieces in the entire Bicentennial Lincoln series, the 2009D Presidency Lincoln Penny. This coin marks the final chapter in the four-coin set, celebrating Abraham Lincoln's rise to the highest office in the land. The reverse design shows the Grand Dome of the U.S. Capitol, still under construction, representing Lincoln's dedication to unity and progress during one of the darkest periods in American history. It's a simple, powerful image, and yet, this humble cent has created some of the biggest headlines in modern coin collecting. Now here's where things get fascinating. Even though this coin was minted in Denver by the millions, not all 2009D presidency cents came out the same. Some of the earliest strikes from fresh dies display astonishing sharpness, mirror-like fields, blazing red color, and perfect detail in the tiny windows of the Capitol building. These early die-state coins are rare, and collectors will pay serious money for them. But that's only the beginning. Hidden among the mint rolls, collectors began discovering strange die errors, tiny cracks that ran across the Capitol dome, doubling in the building's windows, and in some extreme cases, clashed dies that left ghostly outlines of Lincoln's portrait bleeding through the reverse. The kind of mint errors that make even veteran collectors gasp. And when one of these rare error coins appears in pristine and circulated condition, the prices climb sky high. A normal 2009D presidency penny in circulated condition is barely worth face value. But pull one fresh from a mint roll untouched, blazing red, and graded Ms. 68 by PCGs, and it can already bring $150 to $250. Step it up to a high-end Ms. 69 red, and you're talking $1,200 to $1,800. But wait, this is where it gets jaw-dropping. One exceptionally clean specimen with the dramatic die clash and strong doubling on the dome was auctioned for over $45,000, and a few ultra-rare mint state errors, with both clash marks and die cracks through the dome, have been privately traded between elite collectors for over $250,000. Yes, $250,000 for a single penny struck in 2009. The story behind these coins makes them even more special. 2009 was not just Lincoln's bicentennial, it was also a year when the U.S. Mint experimented with the return to the original copper composition, using 95% copper for collector versions and zinc-plated copper for circulation. This small detail makes every variation and mint error even more collectible, especially the Denver minted pieces with strong red luster. When you hold an uncirculated 2009D presidency cent in your hand, it almost glows that perfect reddish shine that tells you it's been preserved straight from a mint roll. These coins remind collectors that even in a modern era of mass production, perfection and rarity can still appear in the most unexpected places. And for those lucky enough to find a mint error in one of these rolls, it's like uncovering a modern-day treasure, a reminder that even a single cent can still hold the power to shock the world. So before you cash in your spare change or crack open that old mint roll sitting in the drawer, take another look. That gleaming 2009D penny might not just be a piece of history. It could be your ticket to a life-changing discovery. And if you're enjoying this journey through these incredible Lincoln Bicentennial treasures, make sure you're subscribed to us Mint Mysteries and tap that bell, because the next coins in this list climb even higher in value, and one of them might just break every record you thought you knew. Moving on, our third treasure takes us all the way back to the beginning, to the humble roots of Abraham Lincoln himself. This is the 2009D Lincoln Birthplace Bicentennial Cent, the very first design released in the 2009 series. It honors Lincoln's early life in a tiny log cabin in Kentucky, where the story of one of America's greatest leaders began. The reverse shows a detailed image of that rustic cabin, built from hand-hewn logs, representing the simple beginnings that shaped the man who would one day hold the nation together. Now, here's what makes this coin so special. While millions of these pennies were minted, not all of them tell the same story. Some of the earliest Denver strikes came out with incredible sharpness, crisp details in the cabin logs, strong definition on Lincoln's portrait, and a rich fiery red surface that collectors call full red luster. These are the coins that make collectors' hearts race, especially when found in pristine, uncirculated condition right out of a mint roll. But hidden within this issue are a few breathtaking surprises. Several 2009D birthplace cents have been found with major die errors, from dramatic die cracks running through the log cabin walls, to doubled dies that make the log textures and lettering appear doubled or ghosted. One of the most astonishing finds was a coin showing doubling so strong that the word liberty appears twice, slightly overlapping, almost like a mirage. It's rare, it's dramatic, and it turns a 1-cent coin into a small fortune dot in circulated condition. This penny is worth only face value a single cent, but in uncirculated mint red condition, collectors will easily pay $50 to $150, depending on its brilliance. If it's graded Ms. 67 red by PCGs or NGC, that number climbs to $800 or more. Now, if you find one with that crisp doubling or a dramatic die crack across the cabin, the value skyrockets into the 5-figure range. One exceptional double die specimen, graded Ms. 68, sold for over $35,000, and a private sale of a near-perfect red specimen with multiple strike errors was rumored to have reached a staggering $185,000. Just imagine a coin struck to celebrate Lincoln's birthplace could practically buy a new home today. The symbolism here is powerful. From a rough log cabin in the hills of Kentucky to the gleaming halls of the U.S. Mint, this penny captures Lincoln's journey like no other. And the fact that these rare errors exist makes it even more meaningful. It's as if the coin itself carries the marks of struggle and perseverance. Just like Lincoln's own life, collectors across the country have spent years searching mint rolls, hoping to uncover one of these elusive pieces. Some have found them tucked away in forgotten rolls purchased for a few dollars at estate sales. Others spotted them by accident, noticing a strange doubling on the lettering only after years of sitting in storage. It's these little discoveries that keep the world of coin collecting alive, that spark of excitement, that heartbeat of possibility, that maybe, just maybe, the next coin you flip over could be worth a small fortune. So, before you spend that 2009D penny hiding in your coin jar, take a moment to really look. Check the details, the cabin logs, the lettering, and the date. Because if you happen to spot those subtle signs of doubling or an unusual die crack, you could be holding a penny worth tens of thousands of dollars. The story of Lincoln's humble birth has never shined brighter, and this coin proves that greatness can start from the simplest beginnings. And now, as we head into our final coin, brace yourself, because this last bicentennial penny doesn't just tell a story of value. It tells a story of pure rarity and collector obsession. And now, we come to the final coin in our incredible journey through the 2009 Lincoln Bicentennial Series, the 2009D Lincoln Professional Life Penny. This coin captures one of the most powerful moments in Abraham Lincoln's life: his years in Illinois, working as a lawyer and building the foundation for his future as president. On the reverse, we see Lincoln standing proudly in front of the old Illinois state capitol in Springfield, a symbol of his rise from humble beginnings to a man of vision, integrity, and leadership. At first glance, it looks like just another modern penny, but as any seasoned collector knows, appearances can be deceiving. Beneath that copper-plated surface lies one of the most fascinating modern treasures the U.S. Mint has ever produced. The 2009D Professional Life cent has been at the center of countless discoveries, from rare die cracks and doubling to incredible mint state examples that seem to glow like gold under the light. Let's start with the basics. In circulated condition, this coin is common, worth just a cent or two. But the moment you find one in brilliant and circulated condition, the kind that still shines fresh from a mint roll, everything changes. These coins, when preserved perfectly, are sought after by collectors across the country. A standard uncirculated specimen can bring $50 to $120, while higher graded pieces in Ms. 67 red can easily cross $800 to $1,000. But what sends shockwaves through the collecting world are the rare error varieties, those mysterious imperfections that transform an ordinary coin into a treasure. Some professional life pennies struck in Denver show strong doubling on Lincoln's hands. The steps of the Capitol, or the words E pluribus unum under magnification. The details appear doubled, like a ghostly reflection frozen in metal. Others have die cracks slicing right through the Capitol building, or cut breaks that make parts of the design look raised or melted. One such double die specimen, discovered in a sealed mint roll, stunned collectors when it sold for over $62,000 at auction. And that wasn't even the rarest. Another coin featuring both a dramatic doubling and a massive die crack through the steps fetched a jaw-dropping $295,000 in a private sale between two elite collectors. Think about that, a 1-cent coin, struck in 2009, commanding a price higher than many classic cars or luxury homes. It's moments like this that remind us why coin collecting is so thrilling, because hidden value can appear in the most unexpected places. The beauty of this coin goes beyond money. It's a story of transformation from the young man reading by firelight to the statesman standing before the world. Each bicentennial penny tells a chapter of Lincoln's life, and the professional life design captures that defining moment when destiny began to take shape. Holding one of these coins is like holding a piece of American history, a reminder that greatness can rise from even the simplest origins. So, if you have a 2009D professional life penny, take a closer look. Examine Lincoln's hands, the lettering, and those tiny architectural details of the Capitol. That extra line, that faint doubling, that unusual crack, it could mean you're holding a coin worth tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. These aren't just coins, they're historical artifacts, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes to find them. And that brings us to the end of our journey through the ultra-rare 2009 Lincoln Bicentennial pennies, a set of coins that tell America's story. From a log cabin to the presidency, each one with the potential to change your life in an instant. So before you spend that old penny or roll it up for the bank, remember, every coin has a story, and sometimes that story is worth a fortune. Thanks for watching us Mint Mysteries. If you enjoyed uncovering these rare Lincoln treasures, make sure you're subscribed and have that bell turned on, because in our next episode, we'll reveal another set of coins that might just be sitting in your pocket right now, waiting to shock the world. One of the most underappreciated treasures from the early 20th century, the 1935 Lincoln Wheat Penny. At first glance, it looks like any other old penny, maybe a little worn from years of circulation. But don't let that fool you. This humble coin can hide a fortune, especially if you happen to own one with the right details. The 1935 Lincoln Wheat Penny was struck during the Great Depression, a time when every cent mattered. People were saving, struggling, and surviving. Most coins from that era were used hard, spent over and over again, till the details faded away. That's why finding a 1935 wheat penny today in fine or better condition is like uncovering a time capsule from America's toughest years. Take a closer look. On the obverse, you'll see the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, his face slightly more refined than in earlier years. Beneath him, the date, 1935, is bold and crisp. Flip it over, and you'll find those iconic wheat stalks symbolizing unity, prosperity, and America's hard work. It's a design that connects us directly to the spirit of a nation rebuilding itself. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Most collectors overlook this date, thinking it's just another common cent. But if you happen to find a 1935 wheat penny with a strong strike, full wheat lines, and minimal wear, you could be sitting on something special. In fine condition, like the one we're looking at, it might fetch around $2 to $5. Not bad for a penny, right? But here's where the story turns unbelievable. If your 1935 Lincoln Wheat Penny is in mint state condition with that original copper red luster shimmering like the day it was struck, the value skyrockets. Some pristine examples graded Ms. 67 have sold for over $14,000 at major auctions. But that's not all. Certain rare varieties and mint errors can push this penny into jaw-dropping territory. There's a double die obverse variety where Lincoln's profile and the date appear. Slightly doubled, a tiny error from the minting process that makes collectors lose their minds. If you spot this variety, especially in high grade, you could be looking at $25,000, even $50,000 or more, depending on its sharpness and eye appeal. And that's not fantasy, those are real auction results. Imagine that a single penny from the 1930s, worth more than a brand new car today. It's the kind of discovery that makes you dig through every coin jar you own, wondering what treasures you might have missed. And here's something even more incredible. A few 1935 wheat pennies were accidentally struck on foreign planchets, blanks meant for other coins, or slightly off-center, creating dramatic misstrikes. These error coins are so scarce, some have reached six-figure territory, selling for upwards of $125,000 at private auctions. Yes, you heard that right. A penny worth over $100,000. So, how can you tell if your 1935 penny might be one of those ultra-rare gems? First, check the color. Bright red or red-brown surfaces mean less oxidation and higher value. Second, use a magnifier and look closely at the date and the word Liberty. If you spot any doubling or unusual stretching of the letters, that's a big red flag and a good one. Lastly, look at the edges. A slightly off-center strike or extra thickness can indicate a rare mint error. Collectors love these coins because they combine beauty, history, and mystery. Every scratch tells a story. Maybe it passed through the hands of a farmer in the Dust Bowl, or a young soldier saving for the future. Holding one feels like touching history, and when that history comes with the potential 5- or 6-figure price tag, it's impossible not to get excited. Next up, we travel more than a decade forward to the post-war years. 1948. America was booming again. Soldiers were home. Families were growing, and the nation was rebuilding its dream. But tucked away in the pockets and purses of that hopeful generation was a small copper coin, one that would later become a hidden treasure. The 1948 Lincoln Wheat Pen. Now, the S mint mark beneath the date tells you it was struck in San Francisco, one of the most beloved mints among collectors. San Francisco had a reputation for producing coins with sharp detail and beautiful surfaces, but not all made it through perfectly. Some carried small imperfections, tiny quirks that today can turn a simple penny into a collector's jackpot. In fine condition, like the one we're looking at, the 1948 might seem modest, perhaps worth $1 to $3, but that's just the surface. Because under the right circumstances, this coin can explode in value. Let's start with its look. On the obverse, Lincoln's portrait is bold and clean, with just enough wear to show character. The word Liberty and the phrase, "In God We Trust," are still strong testaments to its quality. Flip it over, and those beautiful wheat ears, symbolizing prosperity, are still clearly visible. You can almost feel the craftsmanship of a generation that took pride in every detail. But here's where things take a dramatic turn. The 1948 wheat penny is famous for several rare varieties that make collectors' hearts skip a beat. One of the most mysterious is the RPM repunched mint mark. In these coins, the tiny S was punched into the die more than once, creating a subtle but visible doubling. Under magnification, it looks like the mint mark has a shadow, almost like it's vibrating in place. That's no ordinary penny. A verified 1948 RPM in mint state condition can bring in $5,000 to $10,000, depending on sharpness and color. But if you find a high-grade, lustrous red example with perfect details and strong doubling, you're entering serious collector territory. We're talking about values reaching $25,000, even $40,000 for the right piece. And that's not the only thrill this coin hides. Some rare 1948 wheat pennies were struck slightly off-center, showing part of the design slipping off the coin's edge, a stunning mint error that collectors go crazy for. Others were struck on foreign planchets, leftover metal blanks meant for other countries' coins. When those mistakes slipped through the mint presses, they created some of the most desirable error cents ever seen. One confirmed 1948 off metal strike sold at auction for over $100,000. That's right, one penny, worth more than a luxury car. The emotional weight of this coin is incredible. Think about it, minted just 3 years after World War II. This was a time when America was finding its footing again. Pennies like this passed through countless hands. Workers, mothers, veterans, dreamers. Every scratch, every smudge of copper tells part of that American story. So, how do you know if your 1948's penny might be worth a fortune? Start with the mint mark. Get out a magnifier and look closely at that little s. If it appears doubled, tilted, or has what looks like a ghost image behind it, that's the repunched variety. Then, examine the coin's color. Bright, fiery red hues signal less oxidation, the kind of look that auctioneers love. Finally, check for errors, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or any extra thickness in the lettering. Each tiny anomaly could turn your penny into a 5-figure gem. Now here's the kicker of flawless and circulated 1948's Lincoln Wheat Penny, shimmering with its original copper red luster, once sold for an eye-watering $72,000 at a private sale. That's a coin most people would have spent without thinking twice. It's a reminder that sometimes the smallest things, even a single penny, can hold unbelievable value when history, luck, and rarity come together. Now, let's rewind a bit back to the late 1930s, when the world was holding its breath. The Great Depression was slowly easing, but tensions were rising overseas. Yet, amid all that uncertainty, the U.S. Mint quietly struck a coin that would one day become a collector's marvel, the 1938 Lincoln Wheat Penny. Minted in Denver, this little copper cent carries more history than most realize. The D mint mark beneath the date tells you it came from one of America's most efficient mints, but even in that precision, there were surprises that turned ordinary coins into legendary finds. Now, the 1938 might look unassuming at first, a simple, well-worn coin in fine condition. You can still see Lincoln's face clearly, though softened by time. The wheat stalks on the reverse are a bit faded, but still recognizable, strong enough to remind us of the craftsmanship that defined the era. In fine condition, this penny might bring $1 to $3 in collector value. Modest, right? But hold on, because that's just the beginning. What makes the 1938 Wheat Penny fascinating is its combination of low mintage and striking quality. Only around 20 million were made, far fewer than other years of the 1930s. That lower number alone gives it an edge. But what really launches this coin into the realm of collector fantasy are the errors and high-grade survivors that slip through the cracks. Some of the most prized examples come from what's called a weak D mint mark strike, where the tiny D was lightly punched or partially filled during minting. It looks faint, almost ghostly, and for seasoned collectors, that's a goldmine. If you find one in near mint state, that small fading D could mean a $10,000 payday. But it doesn't stop there. A handful of 1938 wheat pennies were discovered with double die reverses where the words 1 cent and e pluribus unum appear slightly doubled. It's a subtle effect, but under magnification, it's breathtaking. These rare error coins can command upwards of $25,000, especially if they still have that fiery red copper shine. And then, there's the mythic variety that sends chills through any serious collector, the 1938 off metal strike. A few of these coins were accidentally struck on bronze planchets of slightly different composition, or on leftover foreign blanks. These mistakes were never meant to exist, yet they slipped into circulation. If authenticated, such a coin could fetch an unbelievable $150,000 or more at a top-tier auction. Yes, a penny that could rival the price of a house. The design itself is classic Lincoln Wheat, the portrait of the 16th president, designed by Victor David Brenner, still as powerful in 1938 as it was in 1909. But what truly elevates this penny is what it represents. It was struck in a time of quiet, before global chaos. Every one of these coins carries the feeling of a nation on the edge of transformation. Now, imagine this. Your 1938 penny sitting in a jar, forgotten for decades, and one day, you decide to check it. You dust it off, look closely, and see that faint double line in the lettering, or a ghostly mint mark under Lincoln's portrait. You take it to a dealer, and they tell you it's worth more than your entire coin collection combined. That Moment of disbelief, that's what keeps collectors hooked for life. Even standard uncirculated examples of the 1938 penny can reach $6,000 to $12,000, depending on luster and color, but pristine, Miss 68 red examples, those near-perfect survivors that escaped time untouched, have sold for jaw-dropping prices over $85,000 at high-profile auctions. It's incredible to think that something so small could hold that kind of value. But that's the magic of coin collecting: history, art, and rarity blending together to create moments of pure excitement. Our next treasure comes from the golden era of the 1950s. The 1957 Lincoln Wheat Penny, with no mint mark. That little detail, or rather the lack of it, means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, the heart of American coinage. And while millions of these pennies were minted, the surprises hidden in this year will absolutely blow your mind. Now, at first glance, a 1957 no mint mark penny in fine condition might look ordinary, a bit worn, maybe a little dull after decades in circulation. You can still see Lincoln's profile clearly. The date 1957 stands strong, and those famous wheat ears on the back are softly worn, but still proud. In this condition, sure, it might only be worth a few cents to the casual observer, maybe 25 to 50 cents to a beginner collector. But under the right circumstances, this same coin can reach values that'll make your jaw drop. Let's talk about why. The 1957 penny was part of the last full years of the wheat reverse design, before the switch to the Lincoln Memorial reverse in 1959. That means it's not just an old coin. It's one of the final chapters of a 50-year American design legacy. Collectors love that symbolism, and they'll pay a premium for perfection. Now, here's where the real excitement begins. Among 1957 Philadelphia pennies, there exist rare double-die obverse varieties, where the date and the word Liberty appear double. Under magnification, the effect is stunning, like Lincoln's name is shouting at you twice. These error coins are extremely sought after. A verified double-die 1957 wheat penny can bring in $12,000 to $20,000 depending on its sharpness and color. And if you're lucky enough to find one in mint red luster and touched by time, the value can soar past $40,000. And then there's the off-center strikes. Beautiful minting mistakes where part of Lincoln's face or the wheat stalks slide off the edge of the coin. These off-center 1957 no mint mark errors can easily sell for $5,000 to $15,000, depending on how dramatic the error is. But there's an even rarer discovery that few collectors ever see. Die cracks and die breaks, tiny raised lines or bumps on the surface of the coin caused by aging dies. On some 1957 wheat pennies, the cracks form right near Lincoln's head or through the date, creating what collectors call the crown error, or cracked skull. Lincoln. Sounds eerie, right? But that eerie detail can mean serious cash. A strong, cracked skull 1957 penny in high grade has fetched $25,000 or more at auction. Now, let's talk condition. A 1957 penny like this one in fine condition is a survivor. It's traveled through decades of hands, from gas stations to diners, through generations of Americans. But if you happen to find one in uncirculated mint red, it's a completely different story. Those blazing copper surfaces that shine, that almost glows orange in the light, that's what serious collectors chase. Some of the best examples have sold for over $80,000 in top grades certified by PCGs and NGC. Think about that for a second. A penny that people once tossed in a piggy bank without a thought, now worth as much as a brand new truck. That's the thrill of coin hunting, the idea that hidden treasure could be sitting in the most ordinary place. And it's not just about the money, it's about the connection. The 1957 Lincoln Wheat Penny is a relic of a time when America was dreaming big. Highways were being built, rock and roll was taking over, and pennies like this were part of every American's daily life. Each one holds a story, a memory, a link to our shared past. So, if you ever find a 1957 wheat penny without a mint mark, don't shrug it off. Hold it up to the light, grab a magnifier, and take a closer look. That ordinary penny might just reveal extraordinary details, and with them, extraordinary value, because behind every common coin lies the chance for discovery. And sometimes, it's the coin everyone overlooks that ends up being worth a small fortune. And now, we come to our final treasure, the 1918 Lincoln Wheat Penny, a coin born in the shadows of one of the most dramatic years in American and world history. The year was 1918. The First World War was finally drawing to a close. Soldiers were returning home, families were rebuilding, and America was stepping into a new era. In that time of recovery and hope, the U.S. Mint struck this humble little coin, a copper penny carrying the face of Abraham Lincoln, symbolizing unity and endurance. Now, this particular one, it's seen better days. The details are worn, the color has darkened, and the edges are smooth from a century of circulation. In bad condition, most people would dismiss it as worthless. Maybe a coin you'd find stuck at the bottom of an old jar, forgotten in a box of mixed change. But here's where the story takes a wild turn. Because even this worn 1918 penny could be worth far more than you think. Let's start with a little perspective. Over 288 million of these pennies were minted that year across Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Ours has no mint mark, meaning it came from the Philadelphia Mint, the original heart of American coinage. But here's what most collectors don't realize. Even though it's common on paper, the surviving high-grade examples are incredibly rare today. Why? Because most of these coins were heavily used, passing through countless hands during the Roaring '20s, the Great Depression, and even World War II. They were spent, saved, dropped, and worn away to nearly nothing. That's what makes any 1918 Lincoln Wheat Penny that's still identifiable. Even in bad condition, a small miracle of survival. In this condition, it might only fetch a couple of dollars, maybe $1 to $5 depending on the exact wear. But don't let that fool you, because this date hides some of the most staggering rarities ever discovered in the Lincoln series. Among the 1918 cents are a few jaw-dropping error coins that can command life-changing sums. The most famous is the 1918 double die obverse, one of the rarest varieties in existence. In this incredible minting mistake, the date 1918 and the word liberty appear clearly doubled, almost like a shadow frozen in time. If you find one of these and it's authentic, even in worn condition, you could be looking at $25,000 to $40,000 easily. And if it's in mint red condition, with that bright copper glow and full doubling, buckle up, those have sold for over $125,000 at major auctions. But that's not the only shocker. A handful of 1918 pennies were struck on foreign planchets, thin metal blanks intended for coins of other countries. One was discovered struck on a 2-cent piece planchet from the Philippines, and another on a thin bronze blank meant for an overseas coin. These extraordinary minting accidents have fetched between $150,000 and $250,000, depending on the strike and provenance. Even more unbelievable are the off-center strikes and broad-struck 1918 cents coins that look warped, stretched, or with parts of the design missing because the blank wasn't perfectly aligned in the press. Some of these have brought $50,000 to $100,000 simply because of their uniqueness. Now think about that, a coin minted over a century ago, in bad condition, once worth just a single cent, now potentially worth tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's not just about copper and value, it's about survival. Each one of these coins is a witness to history, to war, peace, depression, prosperity, and everything in between. Look closely at yours. The date may be faint, the details nearly gone, but if that 1918 is visible, you're holding a piece of the past, a fragment of America's story that still echoes through time. And if, by some twist of fate, it happens to be one of those rare double die or off-metal strikes, you could be holding the find of a lifetime. It's incredible to think a worn, scratched penny that most people would overlook could end up paying off someone's mortgage, or become the centerpiece of a museum collection. That's the magic of coin collecting. Every coin has a secret, and some secrets are worth a fortune.